And then all those kids I ran against.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this board meeting to order at 7:01. Could I please get a roll call?
Yes. Paula Kane.
Here.
John Woodworth.
Here.
Jack Sapien.
Attending.
Shauna Manthorn.
She is excused. She'll be running late.
Kristen Savage.
She's running late.
Okay. Katie Newsom.
Here.
Kim McCormick.
Here.
Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
And Bree Woodworth.
Here. Thank you. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Thank you, everyone. Next is approval of the minutes.
I look good.
I just had one spelling correction that
Okay.
I passed out.
Did you already pass it? Okay.
I had one correction here. It was the motion, which one was it? Sorry, I had that written down.
That's right.
Shame, you don't
Page
have
3.
it.
Thank you. On page 3, the original, not the second. Oh, the motion to spend $108,000 to replace the high school hot water system. Actually, it was my colleague to the left that made that motion.
It was Kim.
It was Kim.
Okay, so Kim made the motion.
Okay.
Okay. And then you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay. So
There was some chaos there, so.
Yeah, that was a weird moment in time.
Okay. Any other corrections to the minutes? Could I get a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Do I have a second? Second by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. So one abstain and 1, 2, 3, 6, 4. Okay, and then we do have some non-public minutes. Thanks.
Jack, can you grab one of these?
Yes, sir. I make a motion, we accept the non-public for May 4th, 2023.
I have a motion.
One correction, if I could. Very bottom of page 2, it says Mrs. Woodworth.
I am Mrs.
Holy cow.
Public shaming.
You're off tonight, Mark.
Go stand in the corner.
All right, a motion's been made by Jack. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, got a second by Bree. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mrs. Woodworth.
Yeah, thank you. All right, all those in favor? 6 opposed and abstained. 1 abstain. And if you could pass those back, please.
Could be a long night.
Let's see what you're trying to do. Thank you. You're welcome.
So a little change to our agenda. We've got student, staff, and family share before our delegates and individuals. So I'd like to welcome Allie Galvin. Hope I didn't butcher your name. But she's a student here from Timberlane, and I'm going to let Justin introduce her.
So Katie and the board, we've invited Allie Galvin, and I know we've talked here that we're looking for opportunities to bring students before you, bring families, and bring staff, just to be talking about their experiences. And again, it's meant to be interactive. So, they'll talk at us for maybe, 2, 3, 5 minutes. But then at the end, we want to build some opportunities for kind of some question and answer and just some engagement. So Allie is fully yours after she kind of runs through a couple of things. Allie reached out to me this year. She was doing an AP writing assignment. She had some research that she wanted to dig into, so she was looking at experts in the field that are in the local area, so I was able to spend some time with her. One of the things I found really valuable about Allie's work is I think it speaks to what we're trying to do in schools, and that is to teach kids how to critically think. So Allie will talk to you tonight about starting from a position and then thinking and talking and researching and rethinking and re-researching and rewriting to get to a different position. So this is not about regurgitation of information at all. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. And also, Allie able to access the local resources. She's just not depending upon things that she's reading in studies or texts, but she's actually getting out there in the community and interviewing people that do the work and using that as a point of information as well. So before we turn into Allie, Dean does have a video of her teacher. It's about 60 seconds long, and he's just going to kind of preview for us what the assignment was, what those competencies were that Allie was shooting for. And then Allie, we'll turn it over to you to hear a little bit from you, and then we'll turn it back to the board to hopefully engage you with some questions and some comments.
Hello all, I'm so sorry I can't be in attendance this evening. However, I'm very excited that Allie Galvin from my AP Lang class is going to be speaking to you about her research paper. Students were given a pretty traditional research paper assignment where they had to formulate a thesis, research the topic. And I always caution students to use kind of a working thesis so that thesis can kind of evolve and develop. And Allie's thesis originally centered around the idea of schools need to do more for students' mental health. And in the process of sitting down with Superintendent Justin Krieger, as well as middle school principal Mitch Mensis, her thesis kind of evolved that schools need to do more for students' mental health, to schools need to be provided more resources to help students with mental health. So upon sitting down, collecting this information from dozens of hours trying to formulate these thoughts, these resources, establish this ethos, establish this logos, establish this pathos, Allie was able to provide a really cool insight into something that I think is really pertinent right now in 2023 for our school. So I hope you enjoy. Once again, I wish I could be with you in person, but Allie is going to do a phenomenal job sharing the things she's learned over the last few months. Thank you.
All right, Allie, I know you've got a contingent of supporters and your families here with you, so I wanted to welcome them as well, but we'd really like to hear from you, so the show is all yours.
Thank you. So this project was really, it started off, like they said, as just a 2,000-word research paper, nothing more than that, and it kind of just snowballed into me being here. So this is about my process of learning and how I ended up here before you today. First thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is my life outside of school, because I feel this is really centered around school, but one of the more important things is that students have lives outside of school. They do a lot, and when they're in school, I feel it can be affected by what's going on outside of school as well as inside of school, and that has to be taken into account in all situations. So these are just some things that I've done recently. This is my rock ensemble. I am one of the lead vocalists for that. So that was 2 nights ago, us performing our last concert of the year. On the left is the concert band that I'm in. I am first chair French horn player for that at the moment. So that was also our last concert of this year. I am on the varsity ski team. And so that's just a picture of me skiing with 2 friends. And there's me in my prom dress, because prom is tomorrow.
You had a lot going on.
Yeah. Why did I start here? So originally I was presented this assignment, and the first thing that really came to mind was student mental health. I felt it was something that I was passionate about, and I had enough prior knowledge that I could write 2,000 words on it, and it would be a pretty fun and easy project. I went into the project with a neutral standpoint. I wanted to not have any previous opinions, and I wanted to let my research decide where I went. Like Mr. Castano says, the working thesis is the best thesis. So my initial research pushed me in the direction of schools don't do enough for students' mental health. Some of the statistics I found were that only 15 to 20% of students in the U.S. report actually receiving support from their guidance counselors, which I found a little bit shocking. Another thing that I think doesn't get taken into account so much is that mental health is a big problem for students and young adults and children. And I think that sometimes that can get pushed aside just because there's a lot of, adult stress that, like myself as a student and children are not dealing with. So that can kind of I feel sometimes make people think that it's not necessarily an issue that someone my age is going to be dealing with. But studies have shown that most mental illnesses and disabilities fester by the age of 14, and it just grows from there. So why not, work from it where it starts rather than try to treat it later on when it's already become a bigger problem. And this one, I think this next one was one of the scarier ones. Schools legally have to have one guidance counselor per 500 students. That is a huge caseload. The average school in the US has one guidance counselor per 408 students. And considering the average 7.5-hour school day, that would leave 70 seconds for each student each day. If every student on the average caseload needed help, they would only have 70 seconds before the next student needed help. So thinking about that just kind of puts it into a perspective that there really wasn't enough being done, or isn't. And I moved from there. Mr. Castano suggested that I talk to Mr. Mensis because he's been a pretty big advocate for these kinds of things in the past and currently. So I met with him he's middle school principal. I met with him during one of my study halls, and we talked about mostly what the middle school has for resources right now and what they're doing with their resources, along with what they would do if they had more resources, what they would be able to do. And the biggest takeaway from that was that when you add more guidance counselors and more support, they're going to be able to do a better job. And it's not necessarily going to make their job any easier with each individual student. It's just going to allow them to be better and do a better job and help each student more when they're given more time with those students. From there, Mr. Mensis suggested that I talk to Mr. Krieger, so we've met several times. And what I learned from him mostly in our first meeting was really the budget process and how this happens. Because as a student, I had no clue the amount of levels that there was in like all of this. I didn't know any of it. So like learning that it's not just Mr. Krieger deciding like I'm going to go hire 20 new guidance counselors for funsies. Like that's not, it's a lot deeper than that. And there's a lot more levels. So it was, I found it was really interesting to learn about, and it makes a lot more sense why things are going the way they are and why they have gone the way they have in the past. So yeah, I found that. Mr. Krieger, you want to say anything about our meetings?
So I would like to ask you, because you've shared this with me in the past, is the one thing that I think that you thought that you learned the most about the budget process is, yes, it doesn't sit with me and like I'm not a king on a throne, right? Who in the end has that power to make those decisions?
The community. I learned that eventually it falls back on the community, and I was looking at, I don't know what it's called, but there's like a spreadsheet of how many people have voted and like which way the vote went and like the proposed budget or if they fell back on the default budget. And since 2010, no more than not even 5,000 people has voted in any one election. Thank you for the budget. And I thought it was pretty interesting because I feel there's 7,000 people living in Plastow alone, and I know not all of them are over 18, not all of them can vote, but among all 4 towns, I think that that is a pretty low percentage. And the fact that I think this is a really big decisions that are being made, the budget and like what schools are allowed to do when the students are like your future. And I just thought it was interesting that such a low percentage of our community is voting on that. Mm-hmm. So after learning all of this, my mindset really shifted from schools don't do enough to schools don't have the resources to do enough. So some of my bigger takeaways. By the end of my project, I really had a whole new outlook on the interaction of students, teachers, the community, and mental health. After 2,929 words, 10 pages, 16 sources, 2 interviews, I came to the conclusion that more resources are going to allow increased student access, time, and support. And that increased level of time is going to increase the level of trust between students and their guidance counselors, and that's going to allow more help for the guidance counselors to give the students, because the more trust, the more you're going to share, the better that they're going to be able to do for the students. And then the students are going to inevitably be better, and they're going to feel better, and they're going to learn more, and they're going to have a more productive learning environment. And I think that that's what this is really all about, is students having a safe and productive learning environment. So I want to leave you all with 2 questions to think about today. What is the role of the school board specific to student mental health? because I feel you guys are in a lot of power on this one, and I think it's important that you think about it because mental health and the students of today are really important for the future. And how can you gather information to inform your mindset as it relates to student mental health? Because, I mean, you have to consider your role, but you also have to be understanding of how the decisions you're making are affecting the people that are affected by them. That wasn't the best way to phrase that, but you know. So I'm going to open it up to questions now for me.
Well, first of all, Allie, I want to just say that this is awesome. And I think that this is great that you went into this with an open mindset and that you had one thought. And then once you saw the facts, you were able to turn and change things. So I thought that was really great. And I commend you for your efforts because this is really fantastic. My one question I have for me, and then I'll let my other members ask you some questions, but what was your favorite part about this whole process?
Probably just watching it like evolve over time, because I think like the reason I chose student mental health in the beginning was I knew I was going to be able to write 2,000 words on it. That was it. Like I knew I was going to be able to do this project and it was going to go well and I was going to get a good grade on it. And now I'm here. So
Yes,
I did
you
get a
are.
good grade though. So go well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have Mark?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. You had mentioned a couple times increased access. So if there were more supports, if there were more resources, so you mentioned that twice. Did you uncover that was an issue with students having limited access to the guidance counselors or the resources that they needed?
Yeah, so I've seen firsthand. I've definitely experienced this where I like myself have gone to my guidance counselor like talking about college and stuff in my future. And I've had an appointment and I'm sitting in her office and she's busy with the student and now I'm out of class for 20 minutes just waiting for her before I can even get to my meeting with her, and now I've missed most of math and don't know how to factor. So it's definitely like I've seen it happen and I've heard it happen from other students, and I definitely, talking to Mr. Mensis, have heard that he, like a lot of people in the middle school definitely agree. I never really got into the high school level of it or the elementary school, but from the middle school, it does also seem like that could be improved
factor
upon.
And I will also just share that your discovery of the layers of bureaucracy is shared by every new school member when they come on here as well. So, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jack, go ahead.
That was very impressive. And just to be clear, it's always the budget committee's fault when there isn't enough money. I just want to assure you that in the world we're living today, you just turn on the TV and you're faced with these mental health issues within the school district. So it's something that's always on my mind, always pressing, and always something I think we as a board always will give the most amount of effort and energy to. But my bigger question is, now that you're an adult and moving on up and out, how are you going to participate and bring some of what you've learned back to the community? Do you see yourself, maybe sitting in one of these chairs at some point in time?
Like being on a school board in the future?
Or whatever, just an advocate for the research that you did beyond your paper.
Yeah, definitely in the future, I think I will continue to keep myself informed and always be voting in my community, and maybe I'll end up on a school board one day, who knows?
Very good, very impressive, thank you.
Excuse me.
Very good.
So I want to try to answer some of your questions, because I think that was where we left off before we got a couple of our questions right on the back of that. But I think as a board, we have a responsibility to try to get a handle on what the school's needs are. So we need to talk to our counselors, we need to talk to the superintendent, and we need to huddle and we need to say what our priorities are going to be, and how we're going to, provide what we need to take care of kids. We talk about that in regard to academics, to fields, to, our facilities, to, everything that we can. And, one of the things that's hard to talk about is any individual's mental health in a public setting.
Yeah.
And these things are very difficult things to address in a general way. It's one kid at a time.
Yeah.
So I think we have, like you said, we need to make sure we have the resources, to provide and to perhaps, guide people to where the help is if it's not in the schools. Some things can be handled through friends, through groups, through, working on, solving problems, that happen in the school. and other things go well beyond that, and we need professional help beyond what educators are trained to provide. So I think that making sure we have the people that know, the difference and can steer families and kids in the right direction for supports. And I think, we need to ensure that, that we're fulfilling that obligation, as a board.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, just to echo something that I think you had said, your transition from schools need to do more to ending up where schools don't have enough resources. I think that's a very powerful thing that at a very young age you realize that, saying people need to do more or putting it on somebody else as their responsibility is just disempowers you. And then when you look at it from the perspective, and you're obviously mature enough to turn that around and then say, wait a minute, this is a bigger than that. This is a group. We don't have the resources, the community or whatever it is. It's just a much more empowering thing that was brilliant of you to transition like that, because that curiosity probably brought more discovery and just, curiosity is just awesome. So awesome job. Echo what you said. Most of us are here. Oh, by the way, nobody votes. That's how I get on these things. But I think, like you were saying, a lot of us aren't experts in mental health, but I can confidently say, just in a couple months here, this group here and the groups that we see that come to these meetings, deeply care about everything from the arts to academics to athletics to that whole child and community. And mental health and drug abuse and things like that are easily overlooked, but that's kind of on us to research and do our due diligence and make sure that young adults have what they need in this district.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions for Ally?
No, thank you. It was wonderful. I appreciate you coming in and presenting that to us. It was very well done. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me here.
Yep, thank you so much. It was great, and have fun at prom tomorrow.
You look beautiful in your dress.
Thank you.
Ally, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You did great.
Nice job, Mom.
Yes, kudos. All right, delegates individuals, you said we did not have any, correct?
No.
Okay. Moving on to student representative, Matt.
Hi, everyone. I know you guys probably missed me the last week.
We did.
Absolutely
We did.
Speaking for everyone here. A lot has happened since the last time I met for April vacation. The high school, the student council banquet was on Monday night. Awards were handed out to Jackie Fuller for leadership. Abigail Robinson got the Newbie Award. Spencer Munson won the Teamwork Award. Olivia Buckley won the Mascot Spirit Award. And Miss Moore won the Faculty Award for going above and beyond and stepping up when student council needed it. Huge shout out to Miss Libby for everything she and the student council has done this year. Fatal Reality happened today in the PAC from 9 to 10:30. Fatal Reality educates students about the dangers of drinking and driving and making decisions. Prom is tomorrow, May 19th. It starts at 6, with the prom walk starting at 6:30. Students will not be able to enter prom after 7 o'clock. AP testing finished on Monday. Students are very relieved that testing is done. My Fair Lady premiered Thursday, May 4th. The cast of all four performances did an amazing job. Tuesday night, there was a chorus concert at 7:30 in the PAC. Wednesday, the 17th, there was a band concert at 6 and an orchestra concert at 7, also in the PAC. The high school jazz concert was held on Wednesday, the 24th at 7 p.m. The last Milkmen show will be Thursday, the 25th at 7:30 in the PAC Recital Hall. Friday, the 26th, are the Timby Awards. Awards are given out to students with highlights over the course of the year for theater and arts. Senior night, boys lacrosse was today. And girls lacrosse has their senior night next Monday, the 22nd. And the Timberlane Regional High School Science and Engineering Annual Conference will be held Tuesday, May 23rd in the Timberlane High School cafeteria at 6:30 p.m. Atkinson Academy students in grades 3 through 5 have been working to complete the NHSAS testing over the past couple weeks. Thanks to all of them for their hard work and effort. The Atkinson PTA provided an outstanding staff appreciation week for the Academy staff. There are several upcoming field trips experiences for students. Grade 2 will be going on a community field trip from May 23rd to the 25th. They will visit the police department, fire department, town hall, historical society, Kimball Library, and the Atkinson Village store. What a great chance to explore and learn about the local community. Grade 3 Big Buddy Little Buddy program is on May 22nd. The high school student council will welcome Atkinson students. Atkinson students have been corresponding with the high school students during the year. This will be an opportunity for Atkinson students to visit the high school, see some classes, and do some fun activities. This is a Timberlane tradition, which every elementary school going every 4 years. Grade 5, on May 24th, the students will be visiting the USS Constitution and Bunker Hill Monument museums. They will learn the history of Old Ironsides and Battle of Bunker Hill. Atkinson will have a school-wide enrichment day on May 31st, featuring a variety of learning activities and presentations, including their grade 5 cardboard arcade, as well as various engineers/trades people from the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, highlighting STEM activities and learning. Danville Elementary, grade 3 through 5 students have been working hard to complete New Hampshire SAS testing. The Danville PTA provided an amazing week of teacher appreciation experiences. There were many wonderful snacks, surprises, and words of encouragement throughout the week. The Sweetheart Dance planned by the PTA was a huge success with 125 students and parents in attendance. Sandown Central, on Wednesday, May 17th, Sandown Central School welcomed Frankie, I might butcher this name, sorry, Campagnone as principal for the day. As principal, Frankie helped with attendance, arrival and dismissal, determined that her class should attend a special story time in the library, and provided a special snack. Frankie won this position by selling 42 calendars for the PTA fundraiser. Thank you to Sandown Central's amazing PTA, who provided a week's worth of goodies for staff appreciation. They were very grateful for the kind words and wonderful treats. Sandown North, grade 3 through 5 students have been also working hard to complete New Hampshire SAS testing. Grades 4 through 5 tested last week, and the 3rd grade will be finished up testing this week. Students are really doing a fabulous job. The Sandown PTA and community provided a treat each day last week for Staff Appreciation Week. There were many fun surprises, including beautiful decorations, kind words, snacks, lunch, seed starting kits, and gifts. Thank you so much to Sandown's wonderful community for supporting their staff. Last Thursday, 1st grade teachers held a parent night for students to bring their parents to school and share all the incredible work they have been doing throughout the year. Students and parents really enjoyed the evening. Sandown North's 1st grade team also held incoming 1st grade parent night on Thursday and did a great job explaining what a first grader's day will look like, expectations and hints to start the year off successfully. The middle school. The middle school has successfully completed NHSAS, if I have to say that word one more time, testing this week in all 3 grades. Students and staff did a tremendous job. 8th grade students created plaster masks for Cinco de Mayo. The library hosted Readapalooza, a one-day book club where students and staff members read the same book previously and talked about the book. STEAM students have been selling their recycled creations in the cafeteria during lunches, and 6th grade ELA classes have been reading about the Titanic tragedy. This will be my last board meeting. It has been an absolute pleasure to be on the board this year. I want to thank all the board members for being very supportive and encouraging to me throughout this year. And I want to especially thank Mrs. Savage and Mrs. McCormick for being a guiding light to me while I've been on the board. They have always encouraged me and given me advice when I need it. And if it wasn't for Miss Savage, I probably would have lost it at the Project Hope show. I also would like to thank a few teachers, Jennifer Libby, Susan Takesian, Lisa Cerny, and Kathleen Blood, for everything that they have done for me throughout my high school career. I really appreciate you guys. Next year, I will be attending Plymouth State with a major in psychology. I'm very excited about it. Now I would like to introduce the 2023-2024 student rep, Armand Anthony's, who will do an absolutely amazing job next year. Good luck, Armand.
Armand, would you like to come up and say anything? Put you on the spot.
Were you
I don't know.
prepared?
I just wanted to thank you for the introduction, and I'm very excited to work with you all next year. June 1st, actually, yeah.
June 1st, yeah.
Congratulations, good seeing you.
Thank you.
So, you can sit there still for a minute. I'm not done with you. I'm done with you. You're in the hot seat for a while here. No, I'm kidding. Guiding light, I don't think I've ever been called that, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. It has been a pleasure to have you here. You kind of got tossed in the thick of things, and we really appreciated that. And I know it wasn't always easy for you, and you did a great job, and you made coming here fun. So I want to thank you, and I want to wish you the best of luck at Plymouth State. We're all rooting for you, and we're wishing you the best. And you strutted on a project. So I don't know what your problem was. Not at all.
You didn't see it behind the scenes.
You saw a little bit of it, but anyhow, but you know, kudos to you, and good luck with everything. So, and Armand. Armand, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've known Armand since he was teeny tiny, so he's gonna be a junior.
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll get him to stick around for a couple of years. Or not.
We'll see.
Maybe he'll be gone in a week. We don't know. So at least you have the whole summer to think about it. So I'm excited to have you on this board and to work with you as well. So so welcome and congratulations. So
Yes.
you had to get voted into the position. So thank you for volunteering. Thank you for running for the position. And if we can be of any help to you, you know how to reach us and whatever we can do.
Thank you very much.
Now you can go.
Now you can. He's like, I'm out of here, Armand.
He's like, I'm out of here.
So,
But Matt, yes, you will be missed. You've been great. All right, current business, first thing on the docket is introduction of early childhood special education coordinator.
Awesome. So we would like to introduce Kimberly Rivers to you. I know we've been talking as a group, as we were looking for the early childhood coordinator position, we emphasized two kind of attributes, and that is, one, the person had some deep experience in early childhood, and that was also secondarily coupled with a deep experience in special education. Kim comes to you with both of those levels of expertise and both of those levels of experience, so we are super excited to have her here. And Kim, we'd ask if you could just briefly kind of walk us through to the board, introduce yourself, talk us to about things that you're looking forward to, maybe some things from the interview process and the visit to the school that you wanted to highlight, but
Yeah.
we are eager and excited to have you start working with us.
As am I. First, I have to say, if you're going to have an adult go, have the adult go first. Because the kids have set a really high bar. They have. So let's start there. So I want to go back to what Ally was talking about in her presentation about this mental health piece. I am going into my 22nd year of being in education. I started off in middle school. I was in preschool for some time. I went to an elementary school. I'm back in a middle school now. And I've always wanted to go back to being in a preschool in an administrative role. I really realized that when I was in the elementary school and things started to come up about it's not just the reading and the writing. There was that mental health piece. There was the executive functioning skills. There were all of these other pieces that I was like, wow, if I was back in preschool, I could do that. Wow, if I was back in preschool, we could do those pieces. So the idea that I can start to impact some change when kids are 3, not only for the students, but also for the families, is really exciting for me. There's a psychologist called, his name is Guy Winch, and he talks a lot about emotional hygiene. And he talks about how we teach kids if they fall down and they get a cut, we teach them to clean it up, put a Band-Aid on, and go on their way. If a kid has a fight with their friend, we'll just say, hey, it's okay. It'll be okay. Just move on. Or if they're struggling with something, you know what? It's okay. Like, you'll get it next time. So how can we start teaching kids those strategies to make sure that they have the skills as they start going through the, elementary school and the middle school and even the high school years? I realize I kind of went off on a tangent, but really, that's me. The interview process was interesting. I had to put a video together before I actually interviewed. And I've been telling the staff that I currently work with, I wasn't looking for a new job. I actually held up a sign at the beginning of the video and said, I wasn't looking for a new job. I'm really excited with the growth and the developments that our special education department is having at this middle school. However, I just could not turn down the opportunity to apply for this position for the early childhood piece. It's really my calling. I actually got mad at the person who told me about it because I was not planning on doing this. I had plenty of other things on my plate. Now I have to do these pieces. But it definitely was, a blessing and very, very exciting. Any questions?
I have a
Welcome
question
aboard.
for you.
Uh-oh, yep.
No. As far as tangents go, they're probably going to come mostly from this chair. Engagement with parents at that age, crucial, I am sure.
Yep.
How do you create that exchange at that early age?
So, one of those pieces is, I'm going to start at the Learning Center and kind of see where they are right now, see what that level of parent engagement is. When I worked as a special education preschool teacher, I was always about telling the parents that they're the most important member of their child's team. They know them the most. And, making sure that parents understand along the process what we're doing, the reasons behind it. When I worked in a previous district, when I was on different committees, they were always about that community outreach piece. And how can we help parents and families understand that learning doesn't start at 3, or learning doesn't start when kids go into kindergarten, but it's really all of those years prior to, and just little things that people can do that are going to make a difference. Now that we have Zoom or Teams or whatever you guys use, I would be able to use that to reach out to parents. Having parents come in, setting up babysitting pieces, for them to come, and recognizing that they do have little ones. It's just, it's such an important piece. And I think sometimes people think teaching preschool kids is a mystery, or really teaching kids in general is a mystery, but it's really not when you just kind of look at what those basic pieces are. And once the parents know, then all these opportunities to learn with their child is going to just open up for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Real quick. We were talking earlier, I think, about developing critical thinking. And so do you think it can start at that early age, and how would you kind of implement something like that?
So I have 4 children, and this will go somewhere. So the 2 older boys, it was when I taught preschool, they were about 3 and 4. And then there is a good amount of space between my daughter Amelia. There's about 8 years. And in that time is when I learned about the grit
and the growth mindset and all of those pieces from kind of that elementary school perspective and just self, learning. So with Amelia, the fact that like one of her words when she was 3 years old was, wow, I persevered, really just resonated with me, because when she was trying to open something or trying to do something, it would be, okay, like you got it, like keep persevering. And when she did it, I would say, great job persevering. So it's just that piece of letting kids explore and giving that time to just breathe and even fail a little bit, because that's how we all learn. And it's so easy with these young ones to just want to sweep in and make sure it's okay and fix everything for them. But really taking that step back and just letting them figure it out and persevere. And when things get tough, like that's okay. You kind of keep going through it. But if you do need help, then people are there to help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. Any other questions?
Any questions for us?
Yes.
No, I mean, not at this time. I'm just really excited. I know this was a new position that, the board has created, so I just am just happy that you have created this piece and kind of found this need for this early childhood, special education coordinator piece. And I'm just excited to get in and looking forward to working, with all of you.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome
Thank you
aboard.
very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. All right, the next agenda item, we're actually going to switch. We're going to do enrollment update first. Hi. How are you?
Great.
You look great.
So, thank you. I wasn't ready.
Sorry.
That's fine. So, the executive summary you have in front of you is a slightly different version or template that you saw in the last 2 months. Gives a little bit more detail specific to the individual classes, class size, not an average class size. I heard a lot from some teachers that I have half a student and you get that half a student, and where are we going to sit that half a student? Because the last way showed you just the average. So it gives you a little bit more detail. I've also outlined some of the changes that we've already made. We have taken one of the open and vacant positions in order to add at Atkinson. We're in need of 3 full-day classes there. Along with that, we've made some moves where we went down in classes or numbers of classes and moved some staff around. So what you have in front of you is where we're at as of today. Still highlighting those classrooms, grade 2 and grade 4 at Danville specifically, and watching a couple of those grades at Pollard as far as enrollment numbers. The enrollment numbers have changed by maybe one up or down in a couple of schools in the last 4 weeks, but only by 1 or 2 students in any particular grade. So we're monitoring that constantly, and we'll come back if we have a need.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Lucy?
So we have 4 current grade 5 at Pollard. And you're,
This year we have 4. Yep. And next year, right now, based on numbers, we're proposed at 3.
which is going to be pretty, that's maxing out all 3 of those classes.
As is Danville grade 4, which is 26 and 25.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through my screen here to see that, Lucy, sorry. So that's
what I
this
have
is,
written
this is my, this is my one,
That's fine. No,
this is my one beef
I
with
know
the
why.
Chromebooks, Ken. I can't flip them back and forth.
So actually, as you're scrolling through, if you look at that second column, the larger column, and you scroll through where you see W for on watch, that's where in total we're 3 or more students away from capacity, but that PP for pressure point means we're only 1 or 2 students away at a grade level. We just haven't met capacity or exceeded capacity, and so our projections are based on the current numbers that we have.
Shauna?
Go ahead, Shauna.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, I
guys.
was like,
Sorry.
No, I'm just looking, I'm trying to add the pluses and does it swap out, are we shifting equally, or does it looks like we have one extra plus?
So we added that. We had one open and vacant position left over from some repositioning back when we moved, when we eliminated FLES. We had one position left. So we already moved that to Atkinson. We already posted, we already hired. So while the numbers will show you it's a +1, we've taken care of that
Shifts around.
+1. And so we are
Okay.
ground zero, I guess, at this point, right? That we're starting from, we've exhausted, but we don't need.
Kristen, while you're looking, go ahead.
No,
Shauna.
I'm,
So the pressure point grades here being, looks like grade 4, Danville, and grade 5 for Pollard. So it literally looks as if in Danville, 2 kids could move in and we'd be out of compliance, and at Pollard, 3 kids could move in and we could be out of compliance. So,
We would just have to waive policy.
well, we could waive policy or, you know,
Yeah.
you're doing it based on numbers and enrollment. Are we doing it based on child need? Like 25 kids in a classroom at that grade level. I haven't taught in a very long time. I switched hats a little while ago, but that seems like an awful lot of kids to prep for middle school, or, I don't know. That's a lot of kids that are gonna make some big transitions in that last year of elementary school in terms of responsibility of learning, self-awareness, executive functioning skills. I, as a parent, would have some concerns if my kid's not gonna be in that grade this year, but if he was in a room with 25 kids, I just wanna make sure our students' needs are met at both of those. We always think the younger kids need, you know, smaller classrooms, but I think we need to consider some of these kids that have these 4th, 5th, well, they're all COVID, you know, impacted in some way, but, you know, these kiddos at those grade levels are really impacted too. I don't know how comfortable I feel waiting on a watch. Do we have some type of plan?
So to answer your question, we do base it on the policy.
right.
Okay.
And if we were to change that policy, we would need to apply it to all grade levels, right? And we would need to have some sort of weighted criteria, for lack of a better thought process, right, of how we were approaching those numbers. So the answer is no, we do just follow policy.
Got it.
Which is the number at
Okay.
this point.
Jack?
So I know there are all kinds of variables here, and this can go out to anyone. As the class size drops, like say by 5 students, do we see test scores go? For me, this is all about how are we going to get better in academics. So is there a number, is there a formula where, you know, for every 3 students or 5 students you pull out of a class, the learning skills go up? Is that a
So
fair
the
question?
research- the
Lucy's
research
laughing,
is-
so.
Yeah. We spent a long time at CNA also on
So
class
this is a
size
good
policy. So yes, it is a good question. The research really is that the number of students isn't as much a factor as the instructional delivery and the expertise of the teacher. So we've searched high and low for that sweet spot number, and we have data across the state of what the numbers in other districts are, and we can compare ourselves. We're a little higher than some, we're a little lower than others. There is no number that you can put your hand on, right, that
what-
sort of says
okay.
this is
That was-
exactly what you should
That was
have.
my question, and just having kids go through the district, my own, I know that every year is very different from the next, right? There are very different big swings year to year or class to class. So I was wondering if had it ever been quantified, and really, it's not.
And we go back to our first presentation this evening, right? Resources. If we had all the resources in the world, we'd be pouring them in to make those larger classes much smaller.
But what you're saying is it really doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference in the research. Do we love putting 25, 26
No,
kids
of
in the
course not.
classroom? No, if we had more resources, and that resource might not be a classroom teacher, right? That resource might be intervention interventionists, right? Coaches for teachers, it could be anything, but at this point, right, we're working with what we have in front of us.
Thank you.
Kim?
Do you take into account, and I think I've asked this before and I can't remember what we talked about. So if you're looking at, for example, grade 4 in Danville, do you take into account identified students when our classes are at a max capacity? When you decide, I know we talked about it in curriculum assessment, but when you decide a number for a maximum class size, there's no taking into account the kids that need just a little bit more.
So I would like to say that I did not decide a number.
No, I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean you specifically. When our number is, right?
When the number was determined.
Thank you, Shauna.
Absolutely. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know.
So what we've talked about before, when it comes to your question, is really a twofold question. Do we take into account students with more significant needs when we're saying this is the class size number? Not typically, only because you don't know how many students you have at a grade level, and these numbers are set by grade levels, right? We have K1 for 20 students max, 2-3, 23 students max, 4-5 is 26 student max. So there could be a number of different factors in different schools at that time. When we're looking at class placement, which is not the number that we set, we absolutely are looking at needs. Schools have been working on that this week, and those classes are in constant flux anyway, but we go through, separate out math needs and ELA needs, and how many students have an IEP, and how many students have a 504, are there students with EL services, and so we try to balance those classes as best we can. We always struggle in Danville, and it was the same for me in the school that I taught in. It's a small school, and when you have 2 teachers at a grade level, right, it's a smaller number of students. And right now we're watching that huge influx in Danville move through the grades, and we're seeing that the numbers are coming in much lower. As it was when I was there 6 and 7 years ago, right, we had much smaller classes.
When you say, let's say that there's not an overabundance, let's say there's more kids identified in one particular grade than another, do you take that into account, and do you add a resource there, or do you shift a resource to meet that need? Or, I feel like for the teachers to have a lot more students with a lot more needs, I just want to make sure that they have the resources that they need to take care of the kids that.
I guess I'm thinking about it because I want to say that we don't specifically say X number of paraeducators that are not assigned to students through an IEP get moved, right? We don't make those determinations without coming to the board to request something. But inevitably, right, when we look at students with needs, we do look at, does that student have a paraeducator, and how are we providing, right, crossing those classrooms with student-driven but sharing out equal access? So what are those resources? How much time is the special educator going into the classroom and working alongside the teacher? So those resources happen, but I guess I feel like in full transparency, in the answer to your question based on class size and identifying teachers, we're not at that point of looking at resources right now. I think that's later down the road once we know, okay, this is our class for next year. But allocating teachers, we don't go into all of those pieces.
Okay.
Does that answer your
It does,
question?
yeah, thank you.
So, Lucy, I know it's based on policy, so I'm not going down that road, but we have 4 classes, like we said, grade 4 in Danville, right? And then grade 4 and 5 in Pollard. So for me, I'm looking at it.
2 Danville, 4. 2 and 4 in Danville, and 2 and 5 in Pollard is what I wrote down. I'm scrolling too, sorry. This is
I'm
very.
sorry. That's on, yeah, grade 2's on a watch. I'm, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so,
Grade 4 in Danville and grade 5 in
Oh,
Pollard
let-
are the pressure points. Those are the closest.
I guess what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at class size. So grade 4 in Danville and grade 4 and 5 in Pollard are both pushing our policy number.
Grade 5 at Pollard is, yeah.
Same.
And grade 4 is kind of, I mean, looking at the numbers, let me start this over. Most 4th and 5th grade classes have around 19 to 21 kids in them throughout the district, except for Danville and Pollard, who are pushing higher numbers from 23, 24, 25, 26, and maxing our
Yep,
policy.
I understand how you're looking at it.
So that's how I'm looking. So I'm looking at it as more of an equity issue amongst our 4 elementary schools, that we have a couple that, that only have 19, 20, 21 kids in a class, and then we have others that we're pushing our policy. Which, and again, it's our policy, that's what it is. So I guess my question is kind of, in a situation like that, are we talking to some of these parents or giving an option in these, so Pollard's got a maximum number, or close to max, let's say. If a parent chooses that they would rather have their child in a smaller class, to take a 4th or 5th grader and send them to, if they want to a different school that has a lower number of enrollment, to maybe even some of this stuff out. Because we have a situation where these kids are all pooling together than a year after anyways. So some kids might really like the advantage of going, maybe they don't have a great friend base in 4th or 5th grade. They might want to go to a different school and try to make different friends, or just go, maybe all their buddies from the baseball team are on that, and they'd rather go to school there. I'm just looking at some way to kind of maybe even it out so we don't get to that point. And nobody might take up that option, but why couldn't we offer or can we offer something like that?
I don't know, Sandy, if you know, certainly in my experience, we haven't run into that in the last 7 years, but I don't know that it hasn't ever happened.
There are sometimes you can have an agreement with another district, to support a particular situation.
But this would all be within district.
But that,
This would all be within
oh,
district.
it'd be a different school in the
I mean,
district.
within district, for the 4th and 5th graders, where we're in a situation where if we're looking at all classes that are 24, 25, 20, and maybe the parent's like, look, I'd rather have my kid in one of these classes that's got 19 or 20, and you might have a couple that might want to jump to a different elementary within our district.
So
To
that
just
option
equity.
currently exists for families in our district. They can always petition to attend a different school in the district. But I think what you're talking about is us initiating that conversation.
Putting it
with
out
them.
there as an option, because I mean, people might not even think about it, but to say, look, here's the situation, this is your child's class size, this is the one they're placed in. If you'd rather not, we have, our 3 other 4th grades all have 20 kids in a class. If you think your child would rather be in a smaller class, it's an option.
But
Just
we've
putting it out
determined as a district, though, they are safe there because they fit in the, in the limit.
Right.
So,
Right, they're more than fine to stay there, but we're just putting it out there as an option that if you think your child would rather be, at one of our other schools in
And I
a,
would say if that's what we're going to do, should we be looking at the policy and having
Well,
a
that's my
discussion
other
about
thing.
that number?
So,
but.
Sandy, I'm sorry, may I just chime in? So, the Curriculum Assessment Committee has been looking and researching that policy for 18 months. And so, Kim has sat on that committee for pretty much, I think we started just prior to your joining the committee, but, Lucy spoke to some of the research we've explored. We looked at not only, I think we have a spreadsheet of 30 different districts around the state, what their policy numbers are. We know that our numbers are, for the most part across the board, higher than the majority of other districts across the state, but not all. We also looked at not just policy numbers, but also data on the Department of Ed website with regard to average class size, because even though districts may have a policy that says that they can have 30 students in a classroom, they may not ever approach that, right? They might make some decisions with regard to staffing, which is kind of what you're talking about tonight. And so while it looks like they might have a higher number or lower, we tried to see if we could determine if they followed those numbers or tried to run significantly below that. We had a subcommittee doing some research on it. We've had conversations around the special education piece. And really what it came down to is that I think where we landed, we still have a subcommittee doing some work on it, and we have to revisit that. But we were at a point where there wasn't any glaring research that guided us to a determination that the number is what's going to determine the best optimal opportunity for learning for each child. And that we would continue to follow the policy language and bring the numbers here for this conversation. I think, Kristen, what you're seeing is that our policy for grades 4 and 5, and Lucy spoke to this, but goes up to 26.
Right.
Right? But if we're looking at it through the lens that you're looking at it through.
I'm looking at like an equity lens as opposed
Right,
to
but
the
we
policy
have
number.
those same inequities because the numbers are slightly lower. But we also, in other towns, I have to look more closely right now, but in other towns where the max for grades 2, 3 is 23,
Yeah.
we're at 22, 23, and some are at 23. Last year, or this current year, Danville grade 2, we were 1 over, and that came here. So, different boards have had different approaches to how they implement policy or respond if we have enrollment numbers that are over. Past boards have waived policy. We've been directed to add a teacher. Some of you may have sat on the board when in August you created positions and we weren't able to fill all of them because of timing. So it's a very complex, right?
It's a shell game. It's all over the place.
It is.
It's
And so I guess what I'm sort of raising is we can certainly have conversations about reaching out to families. But if we're looking at that, we have to look at it, right, K-12. And once we're at grade 6, 12, we're regional, so it's not really relevant at that point. But if we're looking at our younger grades, right, which are 20, Lucy referenced again, K1 are 20, 23 for 2, 3, and then you get to the 26 once you get to 4, 5, which is significantly larger, right? But those same issues about inequity across the 4 towns are going to exist and probably continue to exist based on our population, right, differentials across the 4 towns. So just throwing that out there, and we've done the extensive research. We can continue to do it, right? We talk about it regularly at CNA. We haven't closed our process, but I think because we haven't found anything, to Jack's question, that really was like, okay, this is the answer we've been looking for that's going to guide our recommendation to policy committee. We continue to try to dig and try to figure out what's going to be, the best recommendation. So I don't know, Kim, because you've been part of that as well. But.
No, I feel like it's something I'd like to leave on the table. We've said that before. We're not ready to give it up, but it's nothing that we've seen in our committee that made us say, oh yeah, absolutely, we have to change.
Jack and then Maria.
So, I mean, just doing the math, it almost seems to me you need a couple floating teachers. So when you have 76 kids in a grade, instead of dividing it by 3 classes, you divide it by 4 classes, and it goes down to 17, which kind of brings you at parity with the other schools. And I don't know, A, if we have the space, B, if we could find the teachers. Right, am I going down? I mean, I'm sure you can, but it seems to me if you had those couple floaters in the system, you can move them to those pressure point classes when you're faced with the 76, 80, the real challenging, and then they can float to another school, because it seems like over time, this will vary from school to school. That seems to me like, you have 17 or 18 instead of 19 or 20. Now it seems to be parity, and you're only talking 2 or 3 extra teachers. And I know it's money, and I know it's budgetary, but it's also the kids, the staff. It's a bigger picture in my estimation. That seems to be a very easy math problem for me. Wow.
Maria, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say that it is in our Articles of Agreement, Article of Agreement number 3, calls for, it says residents, parents, guardians, or guardians may voluntarily request that their elementary student be assigned to another in-district public elementary school on an annual basis. as long as seats are available and that no additional cost be incurred by the school district.
All right, well, that's, yes, thank you. But I know we can do it. I guess my whole point is just to say, and I get what you're saying, like the numbers, the lower.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the fact that 4th and 5th grade, our policy is 26.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if they were all at 26, that'd be a different thing, but where that number jumps from the 23 to the 26, and then we have that, and like I said, the 4th and 5th graders, a little older, a little more mature we hope, to be able to make that, but knowing again that they are then going to be transitioning to the middle school. And then we would have a little more of a projection as to, what our numbers look like, and parents could make that decision maybe in 4th grade or just 5th grade.
Yeah.
And that seems to be an area too where, I'm not encouraging somebody, as we talked about earlier, you don't run from your problems, you learn to deal with them, but in the same sense, sometimes people just don't fit in with a certain group. And they might be better to go somewhere to get that adjustment before they then move into the high school. So I'm just saying the idea of putting it out there for people to understand it's an option, because I don't know that everybody understands that they could do that. So.
Bree? So I would just like probably to bring this to policy committee, because I think it's great and we have a policy, that's awesome, but we don't have a priority list, because, okay, so we have 17 out of 26 and now we have 10 students that want to flux. Who do we choose?
Yeah.
So I would like to see a little bit more work go into it before we open it up as wide as everyone should try it.
But it's already something they can try.
Right,
So,
but I'm saying we
yeah.
need to have a
Sure, first
Maybe
come,
procedure.
first serve
exactly. Is
kind
it
of,
first
yeah.
come first serve? Is it by student need? Is it where do you delineate and who do you just say no to?
Right.
Well,
So then my next question is, in Atkinson Academy K, where the projected student is 60, but you broke it up even though the max size is 20, so technically it should only be 3 groups. Is
So
that for half day or?
yeah, so half day is
That was my question.
involved there. We have, if you look at the class size anticipated, it just so happens in Atkinson that 15 kids have requested, or 15 families have requested half day kindergarten. So the number looks the same, but that's because
Got it. They
the
couldn't
number was
shorten.
the
Got
same.
it.
Yes, so we can't put all
Right.
45 of those children into 2
Got it.
classes.
Last one, Jack.
Yep, no, I promise. The only downside to moving, say, 3 kids from one school to another, say your child's in the class with 16, and now all of a sudden there's 20 because 4 kids came in for, I don't know how the parents would react to that, because, you got your nice little nest in your grammar school, and then all of a sudden, boom, now the class has grown exponentially. So, just a thought.
Any other questions for Lucy?
I do have a
Last
question,
one,
you
Shauna.
might not be able to answer it now, but for these grade levels that are pressure points or on watch, do you have an estimate of how many folks moved into the district for those grade levels this year, for example? Because if we have like 2 or 3
Throughout
move in one town, we're gonna be out of compliance. Do you have any data from this year that we can?
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
We do keep track of that. It's in Power School based on enrollments too. Bless you.
Is that something maybe you could bring back to us sooner than later, just?
Sure. So after the start of school, how many students moved in or out at a grade level?
Or you want it, like,
Yeah, yes, especially for these on watch and pressure point schools and grade levels, I guess, because that would be letting us know if there's a possibility of, if nobody moved in Danville grade
Sure.
4 at all in the last year, then I would feel maybe a little bit better about,
I
okay,
don't
maybe
think
that will happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge of it all, right? Every number on that sheet is a possibility.
Exactly.
Every number
Exactly.
not on that sheet is a possibility
Yep.
that we, right? So
No, I know.
it
just
is
don't
all
know.
a forecasting.
Yep, yep.
I do though want to make sure that I point out that first column with those numbers, that includes up-to-date students who are not current students but have registered. So for example,
Okay.
Danville grade 1, we already know a student has registered. That's why it's 41. There are only 40 kindergartners.
That's what I figured.
That is
Thank
all
you for
factored.
clarifying that.
Yep.
Thank you.
okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Lucy. Sorry to move you up sooner.
Keep me on my toes.
Yeah. All right, and now we're going to go back to repurposing some job positions.
So it sounds like we'll just continue the theme tonight of resources and personnel and everything. I'm going to walk you through the executive summary that you have and just to highlight parts of it. And certainly before I do that, wanted to thank Ginger Drexel and Mark Pedersen and Lucy for also adding some input here that I'm sure that you can see as well.
There's no charts.
Charts.
Mark was involved?
Mark was involved. He put it in the
I don't see
language
any
this time
charts.
for you.
I'll give
So-
you words of the charts.
As an overview for all of you, currently Timberlane is carrying 6.4 professional positions that we identify as open and vacant. And by open and vacant, we mean that we are currently not posting these positions because we haven't identified a need that's attached to that job title specifically. There are, of course, needs across our district, and as administration, we have coalesced around those needs. We've prioritized them after we identified a series of them, and we want to make a request to repurpose 5.5 of those open 6.4 positions. Want to let you folks know that that has no impact on the budget, and it would allow us to post for those positions in a very highly competitive hiring climate right now. This is also coupled in what we would call a big picture. So these requests come in the guise of a comprehensive kind of move forward in 4 different areas. You met Kim tonight, so as we secured an early childhood coordinator, that allows us to build greater capacity at that level, and it's also coupled with these repurposed positions. We're establishing special education programming at the elementary level and determining which schools those are going to be in and which programs will run where. Those also come with additional resources, personnel resources that we need to consider in these repurposing so we can continue to balance equity and service to kids across the district. At the secondary level, you heard from Dr. Preble recently. We're going to be partnering with him and doing some student work at the secondary levels that way. Not additional personnel, but we're going to be looking at things that we may get there. And then at the district level, we're going to be posting for an out-of-district coordinator position to then free up some other administration across the district to, again, build capacity in the student services arena. So taking that out-of-district coordinator responsibility from one, hiring someone to do the other, so we have somebody that can really lead our counselors, our social workers, our nurses, all those people who are engaged with the student services. The big consideration is just kind of what Lucy walked us through. You know, we've got these fluctuating numbers for class sizes and enrollments at the elementary level. So that's one thing the board should be mindful of as they consider this request to repurpose those 5.5 positions. And the last and the most, the largest part of the proposal is the actual positions themselves, and then the rationale for why, and then what those people, those positions would be doing. So we'd be looking to add 2.5 social workers. One would be at the early childhood and elementary level. We would combine that position with a half-time existing counselor, and we would create a full-time social worker that would serve TLC and Sandown North. We'd want to bring a social worker specifically in for the middle school and another one specifically in for the high school.
Mm-hmm.
We'd want to bring in one math specialist that would be at the elementary level. That person would primarily work with adults and teaching staff, and then again to build up capacity across the district. We'd want to bring in one elementary interventionist that would make that a team of 2, and again to create more equity and service across the district. And at the middle and high school, we would look to bring in one student support coordinator. This would be a shared position between both buildings as we look to get looking at the discipline numbers and looking to keep kids in school with access to those services we've just discussed. There's some logistical challenges there, but we feel like we can start small and to be able to build up a service for kids at that secondary level there. So that's the request. Those are the numbers. Those are the reasons why. And we would leave that before you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Does
You're
anybody
welcome.
have any questions with this, Kim?
Can you talk about the social worker at the elementary level, servicing TLC and Sandown North? Is it somebody not floating between the 4 elementary schools, or?
This would be a position that would be targeting just those 2 buildings. Sandown North currently has one guidance counselor, so that person could visit Sandown North to do some work directly with students and also directly with families and staff there. They would also be housed at TLC. You heard from Kim around, that kind of thing. So yes, they'd be working directly with kids and with families and with the staff there. But as we envision it, that person wouldn't necessarily be tasked to go and do other things at other schools. There's a need in both of those buildings right now to provide more support in that vein.
Is there somebody that does the same type of thing at Danville or Pollard or Atkinson?
So looking at the big picture things,
Yeah.
we think eventually yes. So Pollard has 2 guidance counselors.
Okay.
Where some of our other elementary schools have 1. The other thing to kind of consider is that when we look at special education programming and establishing those in buildings, those also come with additional personnel that could help supplement that service in that building for those students and families if we're not designating putting someone there physically. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, Kim.
I'm sorry. The student support coordinator in the middle school, is that what you were talking about before, about somebody that will take control of the discipline problems and keep some of the kids that may be suspended in?
I don't know if I said it like that. Yes.
Is
it
that basically what you?
Yes, it's the rationale based on the discipline data we've been looking at and trying to figure out how we keep kids, even when they are violating the code of conduct and need to be separated from their peer group, that we do it in a way where they are not losing, they're not losing total access to their education, whether it's their teachers, the curriculum, their guidance counselor, or just an adult they're connected to help them walk through the decision-making or the processing they went through to kind of get to that point.
And when we look at that person's role, do they have, so they're between the middle school and the high school, do they have like a capacity of kids that they would be working with? Is there any more to that, to this job than just that summary? Is there like a job description that says they can have no more than 5? They can't have both high school and middle school. We're just creating this and then we're gonna figure it out from there.
Those are the logistic pieces.
Those are the logistical pieces. But the philosophy we're sound on. This person works directly with kids, and they serve as the hub for that student during that time of suspended primarily, where they are getting those adults that can surround that kid to that kid. And whether that's virtually or in person or serving as the liaison there, that we're cemented on, we're sound. How that works between buildings, how that works with us scheduling kids, how it works with the reporting out to students and families about what that day looked like, those are the finer details that we would need to work out.
Mark.
That was actually my question. So you phrased my question for me. I think we, despite some initial hesitancy among certain members of the board, myself included, are now on board with that and philosophically supportive of that and understand the need to have that resource in the school to keep the students in the school who could not be in Gen Pop with their peers. Is one person, my concern is, and we heard it earlier with the presentation, access to guidance counseling. Though this is not guidance per se, this is a person who is providing guidance for some students who are requiring it. My concern is that person will be split too much. Is one enough to split between the 2 buildings? And I understand there are some financial considerations here, but if we're going to do it and the board is focusing more on greater accountability, I just wouldn't want us to be hamstringing ourselves.
Yeah, I think I would reflect back, Mark. I mean, as we identified all the needs that we had as a leadership team, there comes a time when we just have to prioritize. Would we want someone in every building doing that? Yes, we'd want that. Are we at the point where we feel like we need it and we need to request it through the personnel resource? We're just not there yet. There's also other things across the district that we feel like we need that are listed here. And the interventionists, the specialists, and trying to balance both of those things across 7 buildings. So ideally, yes, we like somebody both at the middle school and high school, and maybe we build there. But this is going to be something really new. It's such a unique spot. My mindset is also, let's get a highly qualified person in here. Let's teach them the system we want to build, and then let's see where it goes from there. Versus having 2 people in 2 separate buildings working on 2 separate teams.
Well. Right. Hierarchy
There's
needs.
a couple of problematic things involved in that, we think.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Sure.
No, I mean, imagine it's a team, each school has, that you have to fit the person that's gonna be working there into a team of people that are providing wide range of supports for students, so, they'll need each other. It's not like a person going in there independently, working alone, solo, with magically some 5 kids showing up. This is, every kid has multiple supports, and this would be one. So, I think it's great.
I like the concept of the hub, the family, the teachers, the staff. I mean, that's really, as I struggle with performance across the country, there seems to be a disconnect. I could be wrong about this, but that connection with parents, with a conduit. Basically, this person's going to be the conduit.
Conduit.
Yeah.
That's another good way to say it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So you need action on this, correct?
No.
No?
We do need action, so that, the current practice here in Timberlane is that when you are repurposing position titles to something that are radically different than what they currently are allotted for, then yes, that comes before the board.
I thought it was just on the agendas, informational only.
It is,
That's
I think
why.
that's an error.
Okay. That's why I was going by that.
Yeah.
Because I know you were looking into what you just said.
Not there yet.
I'll make a motion to repurpose, hold on, I'm scrolling to find
5.5.
the 5.5 positions proposed in the executive summary.
I will second that.
A motion and a second by Shauna. Any further discussion?
Yeah, hold on. I'm scrolling back. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Ken's gonna be sick of me by the time I'm done with it. Again, so we
had
so
6.4.
we have 0.9 left? Is that where we're sitting at?
You have a-
We have a
if-
0.9 position.
Yes.
Why did I think that was, yeah, go ahead.
Could I
She
just
knows
add-
where I'm going with this.
Just for a point of clarification, these are professional staff positions,
Okay.
right? We did not bring you special education, open and vacant positions, right? We're actively looking at needs with regard to paraeducators. We have a variety of open and vacant, well, open and unfilled paraeducator positions that we're still actively hiring for. We're identifying how many of those will be needed next year, how many are still open and vacant. That's another pool of, right, positions that
Yep.
are technically open and vacant that exist, but we're only looking right now at TTA professional open and vacant positions that are non-special education. Is that?
It does. So I'm just gonna go back to a conversation that we had. So if we need to fill a science position, we only have 0.9.
So there's a
So-
couple of
Yeah.
options that I understand are available to the board, right? The
Yep.
first is you could, and this is what we would do, you would direct us to go back into the budget and look for other places, whether that's supplies or whether it's other attrition-related kind of salary items as people kind of come and go from year to year. Class size, I know we've done this before too. There are other options available to the board at the elementary level about adding an assistant there, waiving policy. So yes, if we needed some other folks due to enrollment, there are some other avenues to pursue before we would need to say, we need to talk about adding an additional teacher, which is certainly, we wanted to exhaust all of those avenues before we would ever get to a stage like that.
But currently, we're at a staffing level we're comfortable with as far as that goes. As far as our subjects, our sciences, because there was shifting around. Because we couldn't fill positions,
Are you asking specific to the middle and high school?
let's go with the middle and high school,
Yes, we're confident that we're adequately staffed in all content areas
Right.
of
I
the
mean,
middle and high
clearly, the
school.
elementary, we saw Lucy's presentation,
Yes,
so that's a
yes,
different thing,
yes,
so.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you'll
we're
have some-
comfortable with that.
Some advantages too of when people retire, you're losing top of the scale probably type of a individual. You don't necessarily
Higher at that rate
hire at
again.
that rate. You might find savings that make that very achievable without, being defined as a
Yep.
0.9 or full position. You have enough dollars to do the work most times because you have, a certain turnover creates opportunities.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't foresee needing to fill a position such as that anytime soon in doing this. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained. Motion passes. All right. Next is high school curriculum.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I come to you tonight to ask for a first read for some curriculum changes. As you may be aware, the curriculum process, teachers, come to the administration asking to work on curriculum changes. Teachers work with a group of teachers, work with the administration, and then we bring that work to, really look at it at K-12, and then see how those changes might affect K-12 curriculum. It goes through 2 reads at the Curriculum and Assessment Committee, and then it finally comes to the board for 2 reads at the board level. So what you have in front of you is an executive summary, a proposed curriculum change to portfolio writing, which is a half-year English course at the high school. Really what the crux of this change is sort of swapping out 2 competencies. Or really swapping out 1 competency. So right now the curriculum has a reading literature competency, and the goal would be to take that one out and swap it out with a reading information competency, just because there's more focus on reading information rather than reading literature in that course. And so there's some standards that go with it. There's some vocab that sort of goes with that swap, if you will. But that's really the crux of the change. So I believe the executive summary is in your packet. I don't know if the curriculum documents are in your packet.
No.
Okay, we can get those for you. I can get those for you, but really this is a first read, and then the June 1st board meeting would be the second read. So, I can get you those documents. I'll make copies as soon as I leave this table. I'll get copies and bring them down for you, and then I'll be back on the 1st to answer any questions that you might have.
And so it is important to recognize this is an elective course, not a required course. So you're not axing a literature component of a student's education. You're changing an elective course to match the way it's being taught.
Correct, and really focusing on how that course should be taught and how it's taught, and exactly that. Thank you.
Shauna.
Thank you, Mr. Woolworth, because my second question is, where is that competency met, the one that you're swapping out, the reading literacy competency, what course?
So that would be found in other English courses. Off the top of my head, I don't know all the English courses that it would be in.
Yeah, could I, just to chime in, so the way our English program curricula works, the way the standards and competencies work, is that our standards, state national standards, are in grade spans at the high school level. And so there are standards and competencies across grades 9 and 10, and then again across grades 11 and 12. And so all students in 11th grade are required to take American literature, whether it's through American Studies or the standalone literature course. And so they would be exposed to the reading literature and writing literature competencies, all 11th graders at that time. In 12th grade, that's when they have options. All students have to take 4 years of English for credit. But in 11th and 12th grade, they have some options. So students can double up in 11th grade if they want to take an elective as an 11th grader. In 12th grade, they can take year-long courses that have a literature focus and writing embedded. They can take 2 semester-long writing courses. But the competencies that were removed are addressed for all students in 11th grade because of that grade span nature of the way English works.
That's what I was wondering. Good, thank you. You didn't put it in a graph, so I didn't know.
I know.
I'm sorry.
He used the words.
I will do better next time.
Words are his data points. Does anybody have any other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did have one last one, sorry.
Yeah.
When can you take this course as a high school student? Is there, is there a prerequisite to be able to take this one, or?
This is junior and seniors, mainly offered to juniors and seniors.
Great, thank you.
So we need to approve this for a first read.
For a first read, correct.
Could I get a motion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any other discussion? I know, she was on it. All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right,
Thank you. I'll go make copies for you right now.
Thank you, thank you. All right, next is our projection for year-end balance. Come on down, Maria.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
What is that?
So as you all know, the projection is just a projection. We still have at this point a lot on the table. We are still having purchase orders processed. There are some departments, one of the big departments that are still doing the end of the year purchases or evaluating what are the needs for next year. So there is still influx at this point, but I did the best that I could with the numbers that I have so far, the actuals year to date. So I am projecting about $1.3 to $1.4 million in nutrition savings. That comes out with a projection, and again, we're still receiving letters of resignation, people coming, people going, so it's literally just an estimate of $700,000 between retirement incentives, vacation pay, sick pay, so severance pay and retirement is about $700,000. As you all know, our utilities is about $160,000 over. Legal fees, we are again a little bit over. And we have some savings in books, supplies, personal improvement, transportation, and other miscellaneous expenses. So that brings us to expense variance of $850,000, which also compensates with some additional revenue unexpected revenue that we have received, which is $100,000 for tuition. Interest income, we are about $100,000 ahead. Catastrophic aid is $100,000, and Medicaid, we don't have the final number yet. We are actually still working with Medicaid as we speak. So I don't have a final number. I am projecting it's gonna be around 150, but it could be a little more or it could be a little less. So I don't know exactly what it could be. So that'll bring us to a projected surplus of $1.3 million.
Another question. So we have 1.3 million, and I don't believe, I could be wrong here, can we use any of that towards any of the projects we have around the school, or is that just comes out of capital? Could we allocate, huh?
You could, the board has the,
Because the only thing I'm thinking about, and we've had this discussion, is that with all the projects we have that we're facing, cost will only go up over time, right? So if we can save 10, 20% on, let's call it a $500,000 project or a $200,000 project, it's actually a real savings for the taxpayers. And, we can go down that. The bad thing about, well, I won't say the bad thing, but it just seems as though that everything we're doing right now, the students are gonna realize any of it, other than they're gonna be warm, and I'd almost like to see something go towards something that the kids can do touchy-feely on. But we have a lot of projects. The sooner we knock them off, the less expensive they're gonna be. Just a thought for the board.
Yep. Okay, Kristen, actually, do you wanna?
I'm gonna go somewhere where, conversation that we had. So if we're going to do something, we have to decide this by, when?
before June 30th.
June 30th?
Well,
You'd have to
sooner,
key all,
because I will have to have
Right, but that's,
one
so
track.
we still have 2 meetings that we can talk about it, so we don't have to, it's not like we have to decide something tonight,
Not
so.
tonight.
And I might be jumping the gun on this, but I'm going to throw it out there. She knows exactly what I'm gonna say, right? So, we just had a discussion, and during facilities and in discussing it with Carl, our tennis courts are condemnable.
I saw those, saw them
Yeah, they're
today.
all-
They're not,
crack, though.
they can't, they're just going to be a liability after the season. We cannot do anything with them. You know, we're right at the point where we were basically with the track, but the tennis courts are worse than the track. The track was usable unless it rained. The tennis courts really are not usable. They're absolutely deplorable. They're right out here. Go take a peek. If you want to go see them, we can take a field trip.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
They're horrible. We talked about this. There's no way they can play on them next year. Unfortunately, you know, we don't have a lot of tennis courts either. We only have a small area, which we're stuck with that area. But I'm watching the tennis team. Basically, they go all night because we only have a few. Problem is, we're going to get to a point where, like the track team, they're going to be told they can't have anything here either, which is really a shame. And at some point, as you said, the costs are just going up and up and up. And at some point, we have to decide, do we invest in our athletes or do we walk away? Because we can't just keep kicking the can down the road. There's the grants out there, which would be wonderful to pursue, which is what we did for the track, to try to get a match. But we don't know if we would get that. I think the projected price was around $400,000 to replace all of the tennis courts. I'm not asking anyone to consider this and make a decision tonight, but I would like that to be in everyone's mindset, thinking about that between now and the next meeting. But my question for you, because we did talk about this, like our track, which we now have the funding to do, we can't do all right away because we can't get the contractors to come in. As this was explained to me, our track is now a 2-year project because the contractors will come in and do the top, but we can't get the next part done on it because we can't get any contractors that can come in and do that over the summer because they're already all booked. You have to stay off the track for 2 weeks once it's done. We can't do that during football season because the kids walk over it back and forth, so we can't shut it down. It has to be done during the summer, but there are no contractors available to come in and do our track or on the end of the list. So that being said, my concern is about the tennis courts, that if we sat here and said, we're going to do this, like tonight, we said that this is our deal and we're going to do it, can we even get a contractor to come in and do it this summer? Or are we talking next year? Because if it's next year, then my thought of putting the money into it this year isn't really going to be there, because what's the point? I'd rather then say, pursue the grant and see if we get the grant over that year period and try to get on somebody's list that way. So is that something we can try to find out, is if we were to approve the tennis courts, when would it get done? Like,
we could we'll have to put out an RFP. We'll have to go out to bid, so.
But is there preliminary just calling around and getting some idea from people? Like, could you, like, what, to get an idea, so if we knew, if we were gonna put out an RFP to whatever, then what are the 5, there's only a few companies I know that do the tennis courts anyway, so there's only like 3 or whatever, to find out realistically, when could you replace this? Because that would make a huge decision on my position as to what we do with that.
We can definitely do that. As a matter of fact, we had been in contact with them because our first call was to see if we could seal the cracks, which we have done the last 2 years.
They're not cracks, they're crap, they're
canyons.
Caters.
The guy went to Carl and he said, okay, I'm not done and I'm at $150,000 just in sealing. You might as well go and talk to somebody.
Yeah, and the ceiling only lasts a year or two and then you're right back at it, so it's no sense to repair them, they have to be replaced.
We went also and looked into the towns, so the only town right now that has tennis courts is Atkinson. We went and looked. Atkinson has 2 tennis courts. One of them is in construction to be converted into a pickleball court. So they will only have 1 court, which also has some cracks. They were gonna repair at the same time that they do the pickle court, but it's only 1. So again, we're just looking for resources and other options. Tennis courts are, as they explained to us, the companies that came, are something that once you fix it right and you do it the right way, you can get 25 years out of them. It is a lot. It is more money and it's more pricey, but if you do it the right way, you can get 25 years.
So you're gonna spend 150 to get a year or two versus 400 to get the 25, because you're gonna have to redo them in a couple of years anyways.
250 instead of the 400, but in 5 or between 5 and 10 years, you're gonna have to redo it again. So
Jack?
I did work for Brock's Industries for about 5 years in estimating and sales, and the thing with the track is there's only one real company that resurfaces the track. They're down the Cape, right? The other, there's two, but there's really only one. So that's why the big time. Now, I did talk to Carl a little bit about what his plan was as to the scope of the work to be done to redo the tennis courts. So it's not gonna be just putting down a puddle-free asphalt court, it's gonna be beyond that. So what I would recommend doing, I am pretty confident that you can hold that money for a year as long as you've got the PO signed prior to the end of the year. So you could actually keep that money and then do it next summer. But I would get, at the pleasure of the board, I'd get the cost of installing the 4 that we currently have. And maybe if we could slide in 1 or 2 more, because I don't think that 4 are enough. Because you see them out there till 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
There's not enough. We should
Yeah.
have more than
So
that.
I'd
However.
do an alternate with 2 extra courts.
Yeah, I think, but we have somebody come out and look at it.
Yeah.
But from Carl's perspective, he said there wasn't the room to put 2 more in out there, because I guess that was a request, that if we had 6, it would be ideal. But Carl's said that's gonna be very difficult to do, but it doesn't, again, I'd like the information to be gathered as much as possible to come back to the board.
Yeah.
So that we can make a informed decision prior to June 30th. That's pretty much what I'm.
While we are making considerations, I would also like to advocate for solar panels, because we have already seen the cost go up $100,000 for utilities. And if we are talking about doing things years down the road, that hundreds of thousands of dollars would be in our pocket, saving on utilities, and we would be making the money back very quickly.
The problem with solar
Just
panels,
a
it's a huge, we actually talked about it in our construction meeting.
Yeah, they had.
And
the
they
panels.
have, if you look at Sudbury, I'd highly recommend looking at Sudbury, Mass. They have them all over the parking lots. They keep the cars cool in the summer and shelter 'em. And General Electric, if General Electric put the same things in, the issue with that is it's a large project. We're talking somewhere between $5 to $10 million to do that. So with the money we have here, we're talking about a small thing that we can get fixed out on the front end, as opposed to, I agree with you. It's just, it's a very large project to
Yes.
do it right.
Yes, but on the analysis for the CIP, solar was included in that. And if you did it on the 4 elementary schools, it would be within that budget.
So we want information about the tennis courts.
Yes, so if
And so-
we can definitely contact the companies, like I said, we do have to go out to bid for that, unless the school board decide to waive bid policy, since we already had a company looking at the space, they gave us a code to seal. That is an option, because like I said, we do have to have a contract, as a final signed contract before June 30th, so that only gives me a month and a half to go out and get an RFP together, go out to bid, allow time for the companies to submit their bids.
Well, we could wait, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, there's only 2 or 3 companies that do this.
Right, but you have to go
Still
to
takes
the
time.
If we made a
But
motion,
we can waive policy.
You can wait.
But that's kind of my point. So if we can get some background information, I mean, you're dealing with this one company for a reason right now. And if we can get some background information as to when can we get on the schedule, I mean, is this something that could be done, things of that nature?
Yeah.
Again, we have the ability to waive policy.
Mark?
Yeah, I would like to see it go out to bid. Worst case scenario, we run out of time, we don't get any other bids, and then we can waive policy. So we kind of have one in the hand, let's see, no?
If you put out an RFP, you have to go through the process.
And are we limited as to how long the RFP has to be out there? What's the process?
It depends the scope of the project, so it is a $500,400 project, so I will assume you have to allow, I don't know exactly how many weeks for the companies to put together their proposals.
Just-
A little
Yeah, I guess I'd just be uncomfortable with spending that amount of money without having it out to bid and just giving it to somebody that we currently have a relationship with. That would be hard to justify.
Well, we don't have the relationship, and like Kristen said, it's only probably it's only two that are very good and one that is actually far away. So I will say it's only really two companies. So, I mean, it's not like you're excluding 10 companies,
right.
local companies that will be able to provide the service. Is really not, that's not really the case, which I will definitely not advocate for. It's a very limited resource. And again, this is something that happens probably in every athletic club, in every college, in every school. It's like the track. It's such a niche business
Right.
that most likely they will be booked. So it will be one of the two that may say, yeah, we can do it. So again, it's at your discretion, and I'm okay doing it either way, but I just want to make sure that you know that we are in a limited timeline.
So
So
there's,
are we comfortable making a decision quickly to make a policy adjustment so that we can free money up to achieve this goal?
If it goes out to bid, I am.
Yeah. Jack, go ahead.
yeah, so this is what I would deliver the RFP. So this is pretty simple. You go out, you invite those, you know how to do this.
Yeah.
You invite the customers for a bid opening the end of next week. This is pretty standard stuff for them. It isn't like they're gonna go on and engineer a highway. It's a square. And what they what they would do is, you say to be done this year, potentially next year, and they would probably put some type of escalation clause on that, or some type of percentage if it was to go to next year. But you send out the invitation to bid. Let's get the numbers so we have everything there. We're under no obligation, so there's really no downside to doing the RFQ. Just my opinion, and take it from there. Let's see what it is. Let's see what the opportunities are this year versus next year, and what those costs are. Then we can make a decision as a board. But at least it goes out to competitive bid.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure, I can do that this week, next week.
And sorry, just to
Yeah, Bree, go ahead.
just to clarify, similar to the track where we got a grant, would we also be looking for a grant in this scenario?
If we go for it now, no.
No.
And
That's why I was saying I'd like to know the reality of it, because if they're not gonna be able to do it until next year, then we have time to apply for the grant. If we have a company that can come in and say, we can do it this year, so you're up and running for next spring season, otherwise our tennis team's going somewhere else next year.
Or even put it in the budget.
So the grant that
It's already set for next year.
use for the track,
Oh.
which will be
But then
I know.
the grant that will use for that, which is a grant that is actually for parks and recreation. Because we have not used the track grant that we applied for, I'm not sure.
they might not even be able
pretty
to,
positive
we might
that
not
we
even be able to
cannot
do
apply
it
to another one until we use.
until we actually pay. No, that's very true too. So, but then again, maybe if they know it's a situation that we just can't get the contractors in, I mean, we're on, so that's, But that's why I'm saying, if there's a way to be able to apply for the grant, I'd like to see us be able to do that before we go and bind ourselves to just spend $400,000, which, that's why I was trying to get the information, and if we can do that and waive policy, we might be able to save money, and then you can go out for your RFP and do it, and save even more money, but I'm just trying to think of the way to make it happen and get it done for these kids in time, and maximize whatever we can do, so.
Kim?
It doesn't have to do with tennis courts, so if you guys are done with the tennis court conversation.
Oh.
I didn't want to interrupt that.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments on the tennis courts?
Okay, the tuition variance, what entails, this might be stupid, you guys probably all know it, but what is tuition? Is it the the kids who come in, like, from outside of the district? Is it,
It's preschool and full day kindergarten.
that's in the tuition, that's it?
Mhm.
Okay, just wondering, thank you.
Another quick question. Legal fees. The reason why we are over so much, I'm gonna assume, is all the negotiations.
Which is.
I just want to know, because when you say we're over on legal fees, people out there are gonna think because in the past, we've been over for legal fees for non-negotiation reasons, and I just wanted to make that clear to anyone watching in TV land that this is related to negotiations and not other issues that we're having throughout the district.
Yeah, no, most of it is the 4 negotiations that
So-
we just went through.
So that's what I'm just kind of, so but for negotiations, we would have been
I
okay,
have to say that
well under.
we all here at the SAU, my colleagues and the superintendent, and we have been trying really hard to utilize our legal resources
Yeah.
before we pay for an attorney.
Well, we've been very cognizant in doing things, and that's, I mean, kudos to our current administration for doing that, because we're not running to legal as we used to do and running up those bills, and we're not picking up the phone every 2 seconds to chat with them about the little things, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted the clarification for that, so it didn't seem like,
Yeah, no.
you know,
That I
you were
have to
living in
say-
our attorney's office with them,
Nope.
so.
I have to say
Or law
that Chris
school,
Kellan is a very huge
Don't.
advocate of not calling the attorney.
Don't.
Ask everybody in the world before you call the attorney. So I have to give him that. He's very adamant about that. So.
So you don't need any action from us tonight, because we have until June 30th.
I can get that information calling this week, and hopefully by the next school board meeting, I can have something.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Maria? All right,
Are there any other projects we should,
yeah, besides
or,
solar.
I mean, we just threw a couple things out based on ours, is there anything we
Well,
should be
Bree
considering?
said
Maybe
solar.
we should have
I
Carl
know, I
come
said,
to
that's what I
the,
said,
Oh, did
based
you?
on.
Sorry.
should have Carl come to the next meeting with,
What,
looking
yeah,
at this and understanding that we've asked for a number on the courts. Say, hey, what else do you have in the back of your head?
I'm just, if there's something for priority that we should be aware of, just have that come to the next, if Carl says, no, that's the top thing, there's no need to bring Carl in for that. But if there's something,
We have accomplished a lot this year too, and we are, right now, this summer and this fall, I think we are at capacity of what we can do for other projects, because we had literally check off the list of everything that was put forward by the CIP and the school board, so.
I would just, June 1st, plan on any recommendations, the ones that we talked about, the 2 that we talked about, but if there's something else that we're not aware of that should be brought to our attention, so that we're making the decision based on everything. I will do that.
Thank you, Maria.
Very welcome, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We have the next item too, right?
Yeah, next is increase in meal prices.
I actually gonna call this after this one. The expert on the food service pricing.
For both.
Hi. What we're requesting tonight is we're proposing a 10% increase for our lunch service meals for next year.
You said percent.
10 cents, 10-cent increase. This-
I'm not good at the math.
Yeah, no, 10 cents. 10 cents across the board for elementary, middle, and high school. The way we determine this is we have to do an annual report. It's called the Paid Lunch Equity Tool. We have to do these calculations for the federal government, submit it to them to show that we are looking at the prices and we're getting paid the right amount for our meals. Basically, they're asking to do at least the minimum, the minimum is 10 cents, or the maximum that they are looking at is 10 cents. And that's what, we're actually within a penny if we do the 10 cents, which is great. This will then not give a burden to our taxpayers, if we're not able to subsidize by increasing these prices.
And this is for breakfast and lunch.
No, just lunch.
It says-
Just lunch is how they base this.
It does say breakfast.
It says
and lunch
breakfast and lunch in
Uh,
the thing.
Request.
Yeah, it says
Annually.
school
But
district.
for
view
the,
school
these
breakfast
are
and
the
lunch.
prices for the lunch, yeah.
I see it. It's in the second
Yeah.
paragraph. My bad. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Are there any questions? with
Yeah.
regard-
Kristen?
Go ahead.
All right, so we were able to maintain our prices for 2015 for like a 4 or 5 year period. Then we went up, and then we had the COVID years where nobody was paying for lunch, so we had that issue. And then we had basically the big jump. And now, so is this gonna be something we're doing, jumping every year? Because that big jump was a big jump for a lot of people. I mean, everyone that I know that is paying for lunch feels like we're constantly filling our lunch, putting money in and in and in. over
Basically,
and
the
over.
government gives us a based upon this paid equity tool, we take our October actual lunches served, we put it by school, and they do it's a 2% increase on prices plus the 7 consumer price index, and they come up with the dollar amount that they want to see the district. So it's individual per district, but you put in your numbers, and it says, this is your target price, this is where we want to see you get to. And based upon that, then you look at what your lunches are, and by increasing by 10 cents over what we paid this year, we'll be able to get to our the number that we need from Fed. If we choose not to do this, then we'll have to use non-federal money to subsidize our food service.
How nice of them.
Yes. So basically, that's the
So
option
basically, we
they
have
give
to
us.
do this.
What?
Basically, we have to do this.
It's
and
either you
then-
increase your prices or
Or it will come from
it's
the
coming
taxpayers.
from taxpayers.
The other thing is that, I probably keep repeating myself with this, but it's no different than at home, right? In 2019, we were buying a dozen of eggs at $2 a dozen. Now it's $5 a dozen, right? So food prices are skyrocket.
Paper prices for us, that was, the increase for paper
Paper
prices was
products.
huge. We just got our budget numbers for next year, talking with Whitson's, and they went up substantially.
So now,
It's like 33%. It's ridiculous.
It is, in paper is 33%, and food is between 40 and 47%, so. That's a huge increase in cost. So.
Bree, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, do we kind of coordinate with any garden clubs throughout the districts to maybe subsidize some of the costs through like homegrown food or local farms or anything?
Federal requirements is the Food and Consumer Organization is federal. Because
Pretty
we're-
much if we want that federal money, we gotta do this.
We're funded through the federal.
They pay
government.
a significant amount of our food service.
I would love that myself, but.
so even though this is lunch price, it's really completely separate from Whitson's.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
It's like two different animals. We have what we have to do for the government over here, and this is what we have to charge you regardless of what our contract is with Whitson's.
Yeah, because they base their numbers on the same thing, on the projections from the federal government. So the revenue projections, they base it on number of students. So they take our numbers, the same that we do with the government, with the federal government. We take our numbers, and based on those numbers that we had handled for the last 2 or 3 years, they project based on the consumer price index and the 2% increase in commodities. They make a projection. So Whitson's use those numbers because they know what will be. That's what they use.
So what you're saying is if we want to continue to get the federal money, we have to increase this by 10 cents.
You have a choice.
Or do the- yes.
Or use non-federal source money to subsidize the deficit.
We use the district money. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
So essentially, if a student were to have lunch every day of the week, this would be an increase of $2 a month or $18 over 9 months if they had lunch every single day. Otherwise, we pass that on to the taxpayers. As such, I'll make a motion that we accept this 10-cent increase in the lunches across the district.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ooh, second by Sean, that was close. I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, 9-0-0. Thank you.
Wait. I have a question, and I don't know if you're the person to do it. But
Hey, it's over.
no. It's not about. It's. I waited till the end because it.
But we're
it's-
not done. We got 2 other agenda items. I'm just
That's
kidding,
right.
Jack. Go ahead.
All right, Jesus.
Yes,
So-
Jack.
So, I was standing in line at Market Basket, and as usual, I said, "Do you go to Timberline?" Yes. I said, "If you could change one thing at the high school, what would it be?"
Lunch.
Could I please pay with the credit card for lunch? Because I don't carry cash. It was so off the cuff. It was like, I expected less homework,
You
but I got.
can pay your food service account via credit card if you log into the My School Bucks. You can pay via credit card that way. But in order to have the kiosk there to scan, there'd be a lot of different fees involved. basically Heartland is the one who monitors the program, and that's how it establishes the account. But to pay then at the actual terminal,
It will cost us a lot of money.
It's a great
knew that was
question.
probably
It
the
was-
answer, but when he said that, I expected anything but that, so you're here tonight.
Well, if log on to My School Bucks, and you can pay by credit card and put money on your account.
Now I have to go buy another frozen pizza and.
Maria, I think you're up for the next thing,
Thank
budget
you.
transfer.
Yes. Oh, yes, transfers.
So we have, two budget transfers. The first one is for $38,000. So we rent tables and chairs around our district for different and numerous events throughout the year. Those events are SATs, career fairs, senior night. A lot of events require us to. So it was brought to us by student affairs that can we look at the numbers and see if we can purchase the tables, which will be available for all of our schools. They will be stored here, but our grounds people can move them to any school that needs them. The cost is, I have here 38,000. I'm thinking it's more like between 30 and 35. I'm giving myself a little cushion because I don't know what happened with prices in weeks. So, but I think it's more between 30 and 35,000. And we did the math and the calculation, and in about 2.5 years we will pay for them with the rental fees. So I think it's a no-brainer. It will be property of the school. And
Let Bree then Mark.
Quick question, how long are these tables usually good for?
I'm sorry?
How long do they normally last, the tables?
so we price the lifetime tables, which are the ones that have the longer warranty and the longer life. They claim to be between 10 and 15 years. So obviously it depends of the use, right? So.
And then my other question is, you said they'd be kept here. Do you have a location already set that houses them, measured, spaced, all that, et cetera?
Dr.
Yeah,
Peterson
My
found
diagram.
We found a spot that we can house them.
Okay.
Whose classroom? That, I just don't.
Don't you worry about that. No, it's, there's a storage space in the,
Come on down.
He's got a graph with this on it.
I do.
Yeah.
I've got a schematic all worked out. There's a storage space in the PE area that we found that we'd have to do a little bit of work on, fixing a door, but then it would fit the tables and the chairs.
Okay.
That's a back
Wait,
closet.
Mark and then Jack.
Mrs. Woodworth already asked my questions.
Okay, Jack.
Nah, I'm
Go
all
ahead.
set. I'm all set.
You sure?
Don't ask again.
You're being way too nice.
You already made the sale.
I'm not used to this.
No, I know, right?
No, I mean,
Did you have
I
another
would
one?
like to make a motion to accept the budget transfers for tables and chairs in the amount of $38,000.
Second.
Motion and a second by Mark. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that we should make sure that there's money for the expansion of the area or the making that area an appropriate spot, to store that number of tables and chairs. That's something we've never been able to achieve before, so without seeing it. And I know that there's a surplus that we talked about before. Maybe we should get an estimate from you on what's going to cost to prepare the place. Because I don't want to get all this stuff and not have a place that will actually hold them.
Fair point.
Because we have a hard time with space for storage of anything in our district right now.
Stuff.
So I'm a little skeptical, and I'm sorry, but I know the building pretty well. I don't see the space right now.
That was my first question to Mark
Yeah.
and Carl.
So Carl and I, we walked around, we looked at a number of different spaces. Logistically, some spaces didn't work because of just the amount of movement that would take place. So Don, as you're walking into the boys' PE locker room, the PE locker room, not any of the team locker rooms. So you're walking in from the corner of the 600, 300 hallway. Immediately on your right.
Do you see the old boiler room?
Yeah, because there's a couple of pipes in there.
That all cleared out?
So there's a one piece of equipment in there that Angelo feels can go into somewhere else. Carl feels as though he just needs to fix that door and make that into a locking door. That door doesn't, lock right now, but Carl feels like he can get that done. So to your point, invest in making sure that that door closes. But
And I do a pretty good mathematical, calculation of space, because that's pretty tight quarters.
it is Carl. Like when Carl and I looked at it, Carl felt like those tables would fit in there.
How many tables and chairs are we talking about?
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
$38,000 worth.
I literally was like.
Carl was the
Oh, I
one
mean,
who took
it's
the I'm sorry,
probably-
I don't have the information. Carl took the measurements and he got the quotes. I probably have a quote on my.
How many?
Take a look at what we've rented.
Like over
you know.
when we have rented tables and chairs before. How many have we rented? Is that what she's going to get?
Well, say it's 50. Do you have room for 50?
It's usually about 100 tables that we rent and
Okay.
over 200 chairs.
I think I saw 200 on the price quote.
I don't
Was
think
that
we have
100?
room there at all.
But the way these rental companies move these around, they nest, the way they nest them together, and I imagine that'd be part of how we buy them, is this, the nesting
the
capability.
cards and the names, yeah. And
They
the-
fit
the
quite a bit
chairs
on
will
a
be- mhm.
truck.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very easily accessed either,
That might
The
be true.
location isn't bad, but the mechanics of getting them in there through a single door from the hallway into the double door that's inside that little foyer, which is about a 5 by 5, foot area. It's really small. You have a difficult job making that work. So I would just get an estimate on what it would make that. Maybe you have to blow out that other wall a little bit and put it right into the hallway. I'm serious, a double door.
Yeah,
But-
again,
But I want to make sure we have the money to do what you need to do if that space can handle it.
Yep. Jack, did you have something?
Yeah, when you're a general contractor, you don't go out and own all your own equipment. You rent the crane, you bring it in for the day, and then you let it go because of what we're actually talking about. The maintenance, the storage, right? We're limited we've always been limited on space in the athletic wing of the building. You're gonna have to clean these. They're gonna be sitting in an old boiler room. I just think we're better off when we need them, get them. It's a cost of doing business. And then you're gonna have to have guys pulling them out, so there's a labor cost associated with that, and then putting them back in.
Our guys now set them up.
Right.
Grand Rental
Labor
comes
costs
and drops
already.
them in the parking lot and the guys have to bring them
We'll
in,
have to,
set
we'll
them
have to
up.
talk to Grand Rental. So, I am just, we have such limited, our referees were up until a couple of years ago changing in a closet. So we're so limited on space over there. And again, it's the maintenance, it's the cleaning, it's the moving them around. I don't know, I'm kind of leaning not to do this, even though there may be a cost savings over a period of time, but there is a cost of doing business, and do we want to be involved in the chair and table business
Yeah.
in that side of the, in that side of the campus?
Well, there's been a motion and a second to go forward.
I'll withdraw.
I want to talk about that a little bit more because
Yeah.
the condition of even what we rent is not great all the time. And the process is, not an easy one, for timing and everything else, getting those things. And every day that, if you have a delay, something happens, it costs you more. There's some unpredictable things about the rental piece and the availability, if your dates change and things like, of getting the stuff. So for the district, long-term, having them is very important. I think having them and being able to keep them in good condition means you have to have a good storage space that's accessible without stressing the chairs to get them, and the tables. That's a lot of chairs. And there's not a lot of space. It's not like the size of this room or anything. It's about maybe, 10% of this room.
Mark,
It's a pretty small space, so.
Procedurally,
I
I'm
know
not
if-
certain how to do this. Mr. Woodworth raised some concerns that I hadn't thought of, and I would like if we could get verification from Carl that he is confident and maybe construction cost associated with widening that doorway, because it may be more than just that 38,000 if we need to do, $15,000 renovation of the doorway to store this stuff. So at this stage, I think I would need more information to cast my vote either way. So procedurally, I'm not certain whether I withdraw my motion.
You would need to withdraw your motion, and whoever seconded it would need to withdraw their second.
He was the second, and I actually made the motion.
So,
I'm stepping on all of you.
so
guys
Bree
tonight.
would have to withdraw her motion.
I withdraw because I was under the impression that the space was
Available.
adequate and available.
Again, I asked the question, Carl ensured me that he measured, he did the quote based on the space that he measured, and he ensured me that the space was there to store the tables. So I'm going with what he told me because that was my first question. As I know we have very limited storage space. Right now we're going with athletics through a inventory of all the things that we have in our storage spaces because I requested that last fall and I want to see an inventory of all these things that we need to store to see what is the larger approach that we take to this issue.
Bree, go ahead.
I guess can we get Carl here, because is it the actual room that he measured, or was it the angle going into the space with these stacked, pre-arranged tables that happened? I'm sorry.
Not the dimension per chair or table, but if they're stacked and the stack is 6 inches wider because of the tray that they're coming in on, I would need to make certain that he accounted for that.
Sure.
Okay,
And
so
that's how
I think
he
we've
board meeting.
had some really good talking points about this, but Bree has withdrawn her motion. Mark has withdrawn her second. So is the will of the board that we want Carl here next meeting to talk and have more information to make this decision?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Perfect.
In a schematic, I mean.
Yeah, and a schematic, please. All right, next.
The next one is a budget transfer request for special education. As you all know, we haven't been able to fill some of the positions in special education, so Kelly has to get contracted services to fulfill some of those obligations that we have to our students. She's requesting a $185,000 transfer. Most likely, we have to wait what the demands are for the services until June. So this is an estimate. We might have to come back and ask for a second transfer, so.
Okay.
Yeah, just as a point of interest, if we had had the staffing available, what kind of savings, if any, would there have been? In other words, how much more is this costing us because we don't, and I understand why we don't have the staffing. I'm just wondering if,
Kelly, is it accurate to say maybe 3 times?
I bet for paraprofessionals right now, they're costing us about $2,000 each per week for paraprofessional. The paraprofessional that we have on our staff is not $2,000 per week.
Yeah.
Right?
But this is because we can't fill those positions, so we're having to go out, correct?
Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
thank you,
Yep, you're good. So can I get a motion to,
so moved.
okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Oh, second by Kristen. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. All right, thank you. And policies, right? No more budget transfers, right? So we have a first read for GBCE, which is training and information relative to child sexual abuse prevention, IJOC, which is volunteers, and KF, use of school buildings and facilities. And then we also have a second read for JFAC, which is tuition for preschool/pre-K and kindergarten. It looks like, Justin, do you want to speak to any of these policies, any changes?
I can't.
Nothing more than just the summary that's there. I mean, the JFAC policy, we were looking to protect against the grade 1 eligible students that we had a conversation here, so we brought that back to policy and made those revisions.
Okay.
The first one is recommended by the New Hampshire School Board, and the other 2 are fairly formulaic ones.
Mark, go ahead.
I did have one question regarding the volunteers and the requirement for background check. Volunteers includes anybody that serves as a chaperone on a school trip. Will that put us in a jam with finding parents who, A, have the time and are willing to volunteer, and then have time to get background checks so that they can go to Bunker Hill with the class? Because I volunteered in the past when my kids were in school, and that may have been too onerous for me to have been able to do that with my work schedule. I'm just
I
wondering
don't
if that's
think
been
so.
addressed.
Nothing's come to my table so far that we're short chaperones because of volunteering process. I don't know if you've
No,
heard
the
anything
policy's
similar.
been in place for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Right, it's connected to a law that was passed and amended a few years ago. The policy was put in place originally when that law was passed, and so we had some new protocols put in place. Initially, it was a heavy lift because we were trying to process everyone all at once across all the schools. I think now we're in a pretty good groove. Schools know early enough, and once they've been processed. So, and our staff upstairs in Human Resources, they're super flexible and great about
So
trying
it's
to
not
fit it
too
in.
onerous at this time?
I think
Okay.
we're good right now, yeah.
So once you go through it, you've gone through.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jack, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. On policy KF,
Yep.
I think that, how can I say this? I understand if you're gonna use something like the PAC where you may need a maintenance person there or someone to, to be there while you're there. The 2-week period, not less than 2 weeks, in a lot of cases, and Kristen, you remember, we had someone that had, St. A's had a scheduling conflict, a baseball team lost the field on a Wednesday, they needed a ball field for Sunday morning. And in a lot of cases, we may fall into that category where we may be reaching out and we need someone to reciprocate with us. So, I don't know how you would break that out, but I guess you could waive that, right? So in other words, say a team comes to us and says, look, that other field is unplayable. Can we use, your baseball field? And they come in on a Wednesday. I just don't want people saying no to the 2, say, oh, you didn't fall within the 2-week time period. But I do understand it could even be that way to use a classroom. But I do understand the broader reason for that needing, if you gotta get staff. Is that?
Yeah, and again, this is a policy that's been in place. All they're changing on this one is just
Complete
who you're sending the form to. I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something, but
I just opened that up for that discussion to see if we want to leave the 2 weeks in there or not, but
I think we should, just because it helps. That way, if, we just don't get everybody, it just kind of helps with the school and it gives an option.
will the administrators know that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Did I get some motions for accepting of first reads and second reads?
I have one more question.
Oh, go ahead, Sean, I'm
Which
sorry.
is terrible because I'm on policy, but I wasn't at this meeting, so, so forgive me. For volunteers, in the past, it was only good, like, when you did your original fingerprinting and background check for like a certain amount of time. I don't see that in here. Is that still, did we take that out? How's that working? And also, I have a personal question, just simply because I have a kiddo moving from elementary school now to middle school next year. So am I still good, or do I have to do it over again?
Yeah, so
These aren't
I
things
also
that are
was
in the
not at the last
policy,
policy
yeah.
committee meeting, so I
Oh,
don't know.
geez.
I don't know if it was actively removed. I know you and I just had some conversation about legally. So we'll work to get clarification on the time span. When we originally rolled it out, the communication was from the state, was that it was annual, but good for a calendar year.
Yeah.
So I believe, depending on when you were processed, right, within that calendar year, that's sort of the key, but, we were,
That's what we do now.
yeah.
Still use that 1-year period.
Yeah.
So if you did your background check in June, you'd be good till the following June,
Right.
right? Okay. Okay.
It's first
Know
reads,
why
we
we
can.
deleted it
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
I just figured if you didn't answer.
Or maybe it was more in the process than the actual policy, I don't know.
Okay. Any other questions? Bree?
No.
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Bree?
For the kindergarten tuition rate, just because the age eligible grade, the added 10, specifically says tuition must be paid in full before the first day of school. Is that also for every other
No.
kindergarten tuition? So they would be inequitable in their payment request.
We're not, that's,
So
we're just
what
doing
was this-
first read
what was the
ones
last
right now,
part?
right?
So we would ask them for money up front, but we wouldn't ask anyone else for money up front.
It's the red shirt.
It's the red shirting.
Yes,
Ev-
and that's what I'm
Everybody would do a little bit of upfront in terms of installment payments or a down payment. The concern with this group is that the district is currently in a situation where you've got grade 1 eligible students in kindergarten, And as they turn 6, they are no longer paying that tuition because they feel that the state law allows them to be enrolled fully for a full-day program and not having to pay tuition for it. So the district is then put in a position where we can either forcibly move that child to first grade, or continuing to talk with that family or those families around the need to live up to the agreement that you previously engaged with us, which is full tuition for that calendar year. So this group and the policy committee felt it was important to put that precise thing in writing, that we are getting that money as a district up front, so that if they want to make any decisions or refuse payment on the child's 6th birthday or thereafter, that we are in a fiscal prudent situation in terms of protecting ourselves.
You encapsulated about 3 weeks worth of meetings right there. That
Seriously.
was awesome.
I appreciate that.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the policies?
I want to go back to the policy that Jack brought up.
Yep.
So at the end of that policy, and if this can be brought back to policy committee.
You talking about KF, the buildings?
KFR, yeah. Is that not, is it, yeah.
Yeah.
KF, sorry.
Yep, you're good.
The last line talks about the superintendent, shall approve all rentals or school facilities and have the authority to waive or adjust rental fees. Why not just add something in there? Because technically it doesn't give you the right to do that. So if you just add in here that the superintendent has the authority to waive or adjust rental fees and time, whatever, timelines
Application
or.
schedules.
Yeah.
For
An
like his
application.
2 weeks thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because, I mean, the idea is you want people to give 2 weeks' notice so you have the time to prep it, but if they fall in less than that 2 weeks,
Because of extraneous circumstances.
So
and-
have the authority to waive or adjust rental fees and schedule.
And schedule.
I mean,
schedule
just
time.
something, there's enough places to kind of just put it in there, just to say that the superintendent does have the right. Doesn't mean they have to, it just says the superintendent may.
Yeah.
Superintendent may waive the,
Time policy.
yeah.
We'll bring that back to policy.
Okay. Jack?
This isn't the policy, this is not the same policy with the, I didn't think so, okay.
No.
I just saw this down at the bottom, I'm
No,
like,
that's
okay.
like a 20-page policy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
thank
like a
you.
one-liner.
We're not doing that one tonight at 9:30.
No.
Nope, we're on this one, yep.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions about the policies for first or second read? Okay, could I get a motion to accept the first and second reads?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
Sean, a second. Jack made the motion. Any further discussion?
But
Do we have to?
did you mention second read? Well, I thought you'd only mentioned the first read
She
ones
said
before.
first and second.
I said first and
was gonna make
second.
a motion to accept the first
Yes.
read. I was gonna do them
Just
separately.
for the minutes, do we have in there that the second read motion is JFAC? Because I think you only read the first three.
No,
didn't
no,
you?
I read
Did you?
JFAC.
Okay,
Yeah, I
I'm
did.
sorry.
No,
That's
no,
why
you're
I just
good.
wanted to make sure.
No, you're good. No, I read them all.
Okay, then go for it. Have fun.
All right, a motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Then abstain. All right. Administrator's report.
2 things for you tonight, one from Sandy, one from me.
Okay.
So you heard quite a bit in our student reps presentation that all of our schools at the elementary level and also the middle school for the past 3 weeks have been taking part in state assessments, the New Hampshire State Assessment System and NHSAS. I said it for you. That has been taking place across grades 3 through 8. Our third graders this week are wrapping up. They are nearly done, and then we'll begin the work of any students who were absent working on makeup testing and things of that nature. Our students, our staff were tremendous during this time, really working together, giving it their best effort. It's a heavy lift, right, to organize testing for this number of students. And we're really proud of how seriously and committed our students and staff were to making sure that it ran seamlessly in our schools. Something new from the Department of Education. In the past, our district and districts across the state would send home student assessment reports to parents with the results of the state assessments for their children. The Department of Education rolled out earlier this year a new parent portal And so all results now are communicated to families electronically on this portal. So last Monday, the district sent out information to families regarding, with a link to that portal, with instructions for how to access it. And to access it, parents need 3 things. They need their child's name, their birth date, their legal name, I should say, as it is recorded with the school district and the Department of Ed, and then a unique code that is unique to each child. So families who have multiple children, each child has a unique code. All of that information was sent home to families last Monday in an email. And so also, if families would like a hard copy or a paper report of their child's assessment results, schools are more than happy to do that, and we're able to provide that to them. They should just reach out to the front office of their child's school, or if they have any questions and can't locate those logins and any information relative to the parent portal, they are also more than welcome to reach out to their child's school, their front office, and they have all of the relevant information. They can help get them up and running, and if they need guidance to walk them through how to access the portal, we have multiple people available to support them in that. So that's something new. Great.
And then secondly, just to share where Sandy and I will be tomorrow morning, and this is an open invitation to anyone on the board. Over at the middle school, they are going to be working through what they call a Make a Difference project. So these are 7th graders that are working towards the Taking Informed Action competency, and they are identifying a real-world problem. They're doing some research, and they're proposing some solution or resolution to that problem. So it's 8 to 9:30 at the middle school, and it's kind of like a fair style where students will be next to their problems and presentations, and then be able to engage with kind of people walking through to kind of investigate and learn about what they learned about and what they're proposing, how to kind of better their local or their regional or their global world. So hope to see you there tomorrow if you can make the last minute thing, but pretty awesome thing kids are doing in the real world, real time, and then having a real audience to kind of present to. So if we're able to provide them that real world audience, we certainly want to be able to. So excited to see what we learn tomorrow.
All right. We do have personnel report. We have a couple professional nominations and a professional resignation. Shauna, you want to do you do them so well.
I will make a motion to accept the professional nominations of Sarah Coate, or Cody, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, 5th grade teacher at Sandown North Elementary, Brittany Grant, occupational therapist, Sandown North Elementary School, and Catherine Mitica, 5th grade teacher, Sandown North Elementary School.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Mark seconds. Any discussion? Fran, did you want to say anything about these nominations? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained? Welcome aboard, everyone. And then we have one professional resignation.
Make a motion to accept the professional resignation of Marissa Lerner Lamb, Spanish teacher at the Timberlane Regional High School, and thank her for her time in the district.
Got a motion to have a second? Mark will second. Fran, did you need to say anything about this individual? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right. That is it for person. Did you have something
No.
else that you?
Well, we have a couple more. We have
Just
one
a few
from,
more.
Oh.
we have
Hold
like
on,
one
I'm
from May
scrolling.
10th, that you guys had approved them electronically already, but we wanted to read them into the records. And
Oh,
then we have
okay.
May 18th.
Do we need the renomination?
That's what I was wondering. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
trying to figure
scrolling
this
through
out.
this.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
why-
our signatures there, we already did some people,
Yeah,
so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So the May 8th and the May 10th, you guys had already, the 3 people had already approved from the
Okay.
board,
Oh,
but we
sorry.
just want to read
My
them into the
bad.
records. It's okay. It's our first time doing it.
Okay.
This way. And then we have the May 18th one, which is live and in person.
All right, hold on.
Yes, that's what.
Okay, yeah,
That's, I
okay.
was trying to figure that out.
I was too. I was like, no.
So we did both
That's why
May,
Fran is here to guide you.
I know.
to guide
Thank
us.
you.
Sorry. All right, my bad.
Yeah,
so Sarah and Brittany,
right. They're already done. And
they were already done.
Right, and
Okay.
Catherine.
That's why I was like, we're not gonna be approving
Okay,
people.
sorry.
That
Yeah,
wasn't the
I was
purpose.
like, wait a minute.
Okay, so I will make a
No,
motion to
well, it does, I mean, you've already, they're approved.
The 18th ones are? I thought you said.
Oh,
those
we
are live in
ones
person.
we
are-
have May 10th, if you want to do May 10th.
Oh, okay,
It's pretty
hold
much
on.
the same way.
Why aren't we doing?
Here's May 10th.
I thought they were signed already.
Yeah,
They
May
are
10th is
signed.
signed.
May 10th is signed.
So we don't
Right.
need to do that.
But usually, because they're done and not in the setting, we usually want to have them right into the record. so
Okay.
that we have a record of it saying, you know what I mean?
Read
For the
them
minutes
into the
and
record.
I
everything.
will make a motion for the administrative nomination of Kim Rivers, Early Childhood Education Coordinator at Sandown Central. The professional nomination of David Warwicknick, math teacher at Timberlane High School. On the next one.
You said we don't need a motion on this.
You
just
don't need a
wanted-
motion.
You just
You-
wanted to read
We
into
just
the
wanted to
record.
read it into the minutes.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
So you
That's
just want-
okay.
So she just read it into the minutes. She didn't make a motion.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. Now read the resignation.
And accepting the professional resignation of Kelly Lennon, second grade teacher at Danville Elementary School, and thank her for the time in the district.
So the May 18th one, you do want to do a motion on.
Okay.
Okay. Bree, did you?
I was just wondering, what about all the other professional resignations?
We're getting there.
We're
right
getting.
now.
We're still going.
We're there.
We're still going.
All right, I
May
make a
18th one has the
motion
most.
to accept the professional nomination of Sherry LeBlanc, special education teacher at Pollard Elementary School, Emily Valentino, special education teacher at Pollard Elementary School, Carly Waynand, fourth grade teacher at Atkinson Academy, and Patrick McAndrews, special education teacher at Timberlane Regional High School.
All right. Motion. Do I have a second? Mark seconds.
Leave it hanging.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Welcome aboard. And then we have several resignations.
Well, these ones are gonna hurt. Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the professional resignations of Eric Constantino, English teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, Kelly Graham, special education teacher at Danville Elementary School, Andrew Riccardi, special education teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, Elizabeth Sanborn, special education teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, Wendy Bebo, business and technology teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, Lisa Furman, grade 1 teacher at Danville Elementary School, Christine Sina, speech language pathologist at Pollard Elementary School, Emily Bolio, special education teacher at Pollard Elementary School, and Sarah Oman, speech language pathologist at the Timberlane High School and Timberlane Middle School, and thank them for their time in the district.
A motion to have a second?
I don't want to second this one.
I know.
Me neither.
Me
Jack
neither.
will second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained.
We do have one renomination.
Okay. Yes. We're keeping going. Let's keep scrolling.
Page 55.
I lost mine.
Page 55, I think. Second to last.
You keep going. The Jeffrey
Runyon.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the renomination of Jeffrey Runyons, science teacher at the Timberlane Middle School.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Did we get it all?
I saw another renomination, but did that go into the other process?
I think it did. That's all, right? Just one?
Yeah, that's all we have for tonight, it's just
Okay.
one, yeah.
Yay. All right. Thank you, Fran. Committee reports. I'll start with Bree. Go.
I am excited that strategic committee is going to be meeting soon, right, Justin?
Correct.
Perfect, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Kim.
I don't have any.
Mark?
No, ma'am.
Shauna?
None.
I do not have any as well. Kristen? Because we're not, safety's not meeting till later.
No, but we just had a meeting, didn't we, since the last meeting?
I don't know. We met. Yes, we did
Okay,
meet.
we did meet.
Safety Committee will be drafting a timeline for the rollout,
Yeah.
to work with students and be planning about how we're going to be updating new hires and also anyone we missed in the first training cycle for
Yes. Thank you,
those
Justin.
situations. You're welcome.
Did you have anything, Kristen, besides that?
No, I had nothing besides that, no.
Jack?
Yeah, the construction committee met this week, and it was really well attended. We had 3 employees from EEI that were here. Extremely informative. We're going to get the masonry test results, the writing on June 30th.
Okay.
Preliminarily, we think structurally everything is fine. They're going to come back to us with, waiting for the rest of the test results, but we believe that they're going to come back to us with some alternatives to mitigate the cracking that you see, which seems to be superficial in all of our opinions. They're going to start the middle school roof and finish it this summer. So there were some potential alternates there, but the cost, it was just cost prohibitive and probably structurally didn't make a lot of sense. One thing that did come up, and the board should address it at some point in time, is how much money do we want to, or do we want to keep putting into Sandown Central? Like, do we have a long-term plan? So that was something that the question was asked, and it probably should be discussed with the board. But it was a good, productive meeting. I got to understand how the costs were structured. The good news is that everything goes out to bid. I mean, that was like one of my main questions. So when they got the boiler, they put it out to bid, and they're required to get 3 bids. So that's all positive.
Good, thank you. Don?
Now, we're looking forward to the next curriculum meeting. I think it's June now.
Yes.
Yep. So we had a conflict with high school issues going on, not issues, but events and, so we moved it to June, I guess.
It's a normal June meeting, just a week late.
A week late, okay. Looking forward to that. That's it.
Paul?
I don't have anything.
All right.
I did have a facilities meeting, sorry.
Yeah.
There was some confusion with scheduling, but anyhow, that's how I had the information on the tennis court, so I just wanted to clarify that that's why I knew what I knew. But other than that, Jack summed up
Sorry.
things, and no, that's okay, Jack, it's, things are moving forward.
I'm getting older.
Do we have any other business?
I have just one quick thing. It is National Police Week, and I thought it was important that we recognize law enforcement for what they do in our 4 towns here. They're a big part of the team, in my humble opinion. They always have been. So from 1st grade to 12th, they're here supporting us. So thank you for all they do.
Any other business? We will be needing to go into, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just asking you a question, but go ahead.
We will be going into a non-public. We will not be coming back.
Are we talking about that too tonight? I don't know where we stand.
Yeah,
I think so. Are we in on that too tonight, or is that?
No.
Still, okay, no,
So
just see.
Just see. All right, so if I could have a motion to go into non-public under 91-A:3C.
So moved.
Moved by Shauna.
Seconded.
Seconded by Bree. Could I get a roll call vote, please? Or roll call.
Yep, Paula Kane,
Yes.
John Woodworth, Jack Sapia.
Yes.
Kristen Savage.
Yes.
Katie Newsom.
Yes.
Donna Manthorn.
Yes.
Mark Sherwood. Ken McCormick.
Yes.
Bree Woodworth.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
We will not be coming back after, so thank you very much.